And we're live! I think. Yes. All right. Thank you. There's
I'm
always
like,
that moment of like, oh, I clicked the break everything button. I thought it was the start the thing button, but it's the ruin all the technology button. Hello and
okay.
welcome everyone to our D&D setting creation live stream. Moroki, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, so I think we've mentioned it a couple times now. I've never actually played D&D in my entire life. I've gotten as far as designing a character when I was 14. I even drew a picture of it in my little sketchbook and everything, and I was so proud of myself. I'm pretty sure as a 14-year-old angsty goth girl, I created some like half elf, half human character, and she was a warrior. And she was like as stereotypical, like tropey, angsty, gothic lady character as you could possibly imagine. And I just never got around to playing. And I think a lot of it just has to do with time and energy, and people have even asked me to join on campaigns over the years, but I recognize that it's a very important thing that people love doing and dedicate time to, and I never wanted to disrespect that by having a no-show. In fact, I actually even remember, do you remember the anime Hellsing, Peter?
No, I didn't get into anime until much later, and I'm
Oh.
very like embarrassingly understudied in anime. There's like 3 or 4 limited series I've seen to completion, and that's about it. So tell
Okay,
me
it's
about it.
all good. I'm embarrassingly, undercultured in the world of D&D. So we all have our gaps as geeky as and as nerdy as we can be. How so for me, I like how Summerman's Pies is saying every angsty goth girl was a half elf. Guilty. I love it. I love it. Cheer. High five. High five, fellow angsty goth girls. Unite. So Helsing was an anime about like a vampire hunter who was a vampire himself, and the main character's name was Alucard, which is Dracula backwards because it's like, oh, he's actually Dracula. Anywho, I think like someone actually even found like a D&D setup for Helsing related stuff, and I even almost got into that, but long story longer, I've never played D&D, and I think this is like a phenomenal opportunity for me to get involved. So next Wednesday on July 5th, I'm going to be playing my very first campaign. Peter, I don't know if you want to splash up the big old banner, because it's not just me. It's not just me and Peter. We actually have a great team of band of misfit and merry adventurers joining along, hopefully to coach me and guide me through my first D&D campaign. And in setting up for that today, we're going to use the Lore Masters deck to show how we can create a D&D setting. And it's one of those, I think earlier this week, Peter, you had an incident happen that where you called for for Lore Masters deck to come and support you, and it did. And I think it's a really great setup for what's going to happen today as well.
Yeah, so this is our lineup. It looks like the screen share is actually blocking the view of everyone's names. But yeah,
Of
so
course it is.
first I'll talk a little bit about the lineup, and then I'll talk about kind of how the idea for this came together, which was a real life emergency that I had earlier this week. But yeah, our players are going to be Alina Pete, the webcomic artist and role player, who I actually play D&D with every other week on the Trash Heroes live stream, which is a live stream of webcomic artists playing D&D together. There's going to be Jasmine Menoza, who is my wife, who I've been trying to get to play D&D for 14 years. And a year ago, she got into D&D from watching Dimension 20. We were having so much fun watching the show together. She loves comedy. She's so funny. She's like the funniest person I've ever met. And she's like, I will play D&D with you under the specific conditions of like, I get to be a druid or a ranger. I get to have a pet. The pet can't die. And I was like, yeah, agreed, for sure. And we've been playing in a home game for a year with some friends, and she's such a good role player. And I peer pressured her as well as Miroki into making this their D&D live stream debuts. And the thing is, my wife is very like private. She's not on social media. So for her to go do a public thing is like really fun and rare. And I'm just so excited to get to like share how funny she is and share some of our role playing experiences with all of you. I think it's going to
Watch her
be
make it as like a
a bit of a fun.
giant superstar, and just like you guys become some power duo of geek nerddom, like just I don't know, going in through all the different sectors, and you guys just like smash it. She watch her come and do one live stream and just get hooked and become a Twitch streamer or something.
That would be a delight. The other thing I was going to add is, oh right, like immediately when I asked her if she'd play, she's like, "Yeah, all right, I'll do it." She immediately started like coming up with her rider. Like these are the conditions of like you have to buy me breakfast that morning. I want like the fancy coffee from the local cafe, so she's definitely like milking it for all it's worth, and I think it's delightful. Um, uh, and Oh, there's one more thing I was going to share about her joining in, but it's not coming to me at the moment. So I'll move on to Jordan Shively, who's written for a number of tabletop RPGs, including Spire and Emberwind. I've not gotten to play D&D with them before, but I'm really excited to. I've loved their microfiction since I first started reading their Twitter account, which is at Hottest Singles. Just absolutely loved their microfiction, and they're going to be playing a creepy necromancer. They've decided, and we'll figure out how they plug into the world as we create the setting here. And then Maroki, who of course has a background in theater, a background in performance, and has been D&D adjacent for much of her life. And then we'll get to see her actually like dive in and play. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I think as we're creating the setting today, I think Maroki will be looking for opportunities to create her character. So if we draw figure cards, um, she may choose to use those as inspiration for her character. Another thought I had is if we have any cool creatures that you'd want to be like a ranger and that's your animal companion, could be fun. It sounds like Jasmine's probably going to end up playing a barbarian, so the ranger slot, which she had previously called dibs on a year ago, is available. Yeah, but the sort of idea for how this create a setting and play in it came together is a little bit inspired by a real life experience I had this week, where I've been running a D&D campaign for, I guess it's been about 6 months now, for some friends, a home game in a setting called Sea Down, which is very much like an age of exploration, great ships, islands, maritime inspired campaign setting. And there's like a last minute change up in who's going to be available for the session, and a little bit of change needed to happen to the content. I wasn't really happy with what I'd written, and it was like an hour to game time, and I like threw out most of my notes. I decided to keep some of it, but threw out most of my notes and just decided like I'm going to rebuild the location that they're going to using Lore Master's deck, and pulled some prompts, and it ended up being like such a genuinely fun session, and the material that came out of it really really worked. Again, if on the off chance that I mean, my wife can hear me through the door, so I'm going to ask her to plug her ears out now. Plug her ears now as I'm speaking out loud, because some of the stuff they haven't discovered yet. They got about halfway through the sea cave that I designed, and in the event that James or Jess or Alicia or Dan is listening, again, please don't for just the next little bit. Spoilers ahead. But they're going into the sea cave, which they were sort of. It was a secret location on a treasure map that they had to decode to get there, knowing that there's an item they have to retrieve there for someone. And outside of it, there was this big cloud of jellyfish that are. Kind of like a hive mind. When they touch each other, they can communicate through electrochemicals, and so they actually coordinate as one giant organism. And one of the ways that they hunt as this extremely intelligent networked creature is that they will like encase a body and start to like almost like a mech. Like they will absorb the body and move it around and make it do things. So they could like catch someone in the water and then make them wave for help, by controlling their body, and then lure more victims in. So they're this like terrifying predatory colony creature. We created a really cool bioluminescent fungus that grows inside the cave that is used as a spice, but it's also a stimulant. So it's like when you want like an extra spicy food experience, you put it on. And but it also glows inside the cave, so the domed sea cave looks like you're inside a almost like you're inside like an observatory, or what's the word for like when you're inside a model of the solar system and like there's stars, like
Oh my
it's a
gosh. You think I
planetarium
would
kind of thing.
y- Yeah, you think I would know this because I used to be a huge space nerd. You think I would know the language for this, but planetariums sounds pretty apt.
Yeah, I think that's the closest one that I can think of. So it's almost like a planetarium inside, and that fungus also is sometimes used in fermenting, for like brewing. Was one of the things that came up in the prompts. And our druid, who was like advanced scouting the area, had wild shaped into being a tiny spider and decided like I'm going to taste some of the fungus, and I'm going to taste it as a spider and then change it back into my elf form and taste it as an elf. I want to see if it tastes different. So I quickly Googled like how do spiders eat? How do spiders taste? And they taste through little hairs and sensitivity things on the outside of their body. They can actually taste through the hairs that are on the outside of their body. So, and he was a tiny spider. So I was looking at like, we have a stimulant that he's absorbing just by like touching it and putting it on his skin. So I had to make the Constitution saving throw. He ended up getting instantly affected by this stimulant and spending the rest of the session like full jitterbug. He's normally a very laid back. His character is a surfer dude or surfer druid. He's like a surfer druid, and he ended up, instead of being his very like laid back like kind of surfer SoCal character, he ended up being like full on hyper stimulated version of his character, and it was just so much fun. He had a bit of a trip psychedelic experience inside this cave of stars as he got instantly high. And yeah, it all became a very ridiculous session. There's a couple other things that I don't want to fall into that trap of like recounting your D&D campaign to someone who's not part of it, which is only entertaining for, you know, maybe 2 minutes. But
I did have a friend in university. I'm about to throw him under the bus here. I remember he would recount to me for like hours, like when we walked from class to class to my car, would just tell me his entire character's backstory. And I'll fully admit, I don't know if I tuned in for all of it, because after a while you're like, I'm listening to someone's story that I didn't watch at all. But you care about it a lot, and that's okay. That's like sometimes when people are like, "Do you want to look at my dog?" and you're like, "No," and they're like, "It's okay, look at my dog." It's like those.
yeah,
It's like, "Is
well,
my cat cute?" And you're like, "No, I don't really need to." Like, here's like the nth video of my cat.
well, it's funny because Alina, who will be joining us on the stream, Alina has a really wonderful T-shirt in their store, which is just somebody like running up with a character sheet, being like, "Let me tell you about my character," which very much captures that energy of like, I don't know how to stop talking about my D&D campaign, even though I can see that you're not interested, or maybe I can't tell it. But yeah, I spend a lot of time at conventions hearing people tell me about their D&D characters. It just happens a lot, and you know what? It's always fun. It's
I
always
guess
fun to
like
hear the takes people have.
I think it's always also, especially because we create a deck that is meant to help dungeon masters and people with their campaigns. I think for me, it's like overall, it's a good thing that,
Yeah.
people obviously find such inspiration using the deck to craft their campaigns and see what it comes up to. Like, one of the things I like doing occasionally is scrolling through Twitter. Is someone would share like, here's the cool prompt that I did for my story. I think there's someone on Twitter who has sort of like a weekly thing that's going on with I think they're like either just advancing their story or advancing a podcast of theirs, and they just have some new prompt that they share every week, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's also a very interesting way to see how people's minds work and how they
Yeah.
kind of utilize the deck to craft and cultivate just like the things that resonate with them, right? Like, I know even when I first started working with the Lore Masters deck with you, I realized like there's at some point in my creative journey, I kind of like going weird and wacky. So I kind of went from my super angsty girl phase to just now trying to be Terry Pratchett, like a Terry Pratchett knockoff, just being like, I want to be funny all the time and I want to like do fantasy wit. And I got, I want to not take life and I want to not take stuff so seriously. So I'll just kind of do the most contradictory choices. So I guess like today we're looking at creating the setting, and I suppose I'm cheating a little bit because I'm getting to witness this setting
Yeah.
in advance. But look, this is me gently like sliding into D&D. So allow me some of the cheat codes. Let me in so I can see the settings. So I don't feel super intimidated when creating my character over the weekend, which is likely what's going to happen. And I mean, everyone who's watched me on this live now sees I enjoy a little bit of context, right? Like when I created the wine pairings and stuff, like I actually enjoy the idea of having context and creating things around context. That's like the super engineer, like nerd brain mind of mine. So I think this will be kind of my gateway drug. Maybe, right? You're like, you're hooking me in. You have to kind of be like, okay, Maruki, look at this really cool setting. And now you're going to want to play D&D.
Well, and the other thing that we can do is, yeah, we're giving you the cheat codes, but if we create a character who has a reason to know some of these things, like you play a character who's a bit of a lore master or who knows a lot about the world, then there's a reason that you are that you have this knowledge. So we could even like put that into your character build if we want to. But let's get started and see what comes up. And yeah, so I think that for the world building that we're going to do the usual thing where we want your input in the votes, pitch us the different meaning of cards. Every now and then, either Maroki or I may get to call like oh, actually, I'm going to pick this one. For my case, this is because I want to be able to if there's like a certain world building element that I know I want to be able to deploy a certain way, every now and then I'm gonna do a little override. I'm gonna be like, actually, I'm gonna cherry pick this one because I really think that this will work, and I can see how I would use that in the world and story. And this is very much going to be us like furnishing a cupboard that I'm going to like cook an adventure with. We're going to fill the cupboard with all these fun things. And likewise, if Moroki sees an opportunity to build a character or pull out a character, then I think definitely I want her to be able to take the lead on making the creative choices around that character. So we'll slow down and make sure that she gets to make those choices. But otherwise, we want your votes coming in for what cues we use for everything. And I think let's go to
What I
the
also want to ask, given that Jasmine was allowed to give some rules, like saying I want to be this, and my animal companions can't die, can I have some of that cheat code too, where I can be like, oh, there's certain conditions I don't want to happen to me on this campaign, because I'll try my best not to be that person, because I also enjoy the idea of playing D&D or playing any sort of role-playing game where it's like you're navigating life unexpectedly, right? There's unexpected things that happen, and I know one of the things I've always enjoyed in storytelling is when we don't sort of follow the same trajectories of storylines, or the way I call it's like always have the Victorian endings when things just. I remember, the days like the first time in my life when I saw a main character die in a story. Well, I was like, mind blown. Like what?
yeah.
Like I didn't realize this was a thing. Like I am so struck in ways I could, never ever fathom it. So I'm okay with going the unexpected, but there might, if there's something that resonates with me deep enough, I might be like, I don't want that thing to die.
Yeah.
Please.
That's we'll see. Especially if you're a character who part of your character's storyline or their background is a creature, then I'll certainly like I'll allow some like dibs on like let's not do. And also like I have my own something that's happening backstage in production is where I'm making sure that every performer has a chance to talk about like these are scenes that I will not role play. This is content that I don't want to be a part of the story that I'm telling. And as a DM, I have like things that I won't storytell, and like one of those very specific things is like violence to pets or domestic animals. I just don't like it. So that's like on my list of no-nos. So that kind of thing for sure, we can do, but definitely for like making sure that the story has narrative and emotional and just like stakes that there's something that could to win and lose.
Mhm.
Well, there's got to be some things that we have on the table that if things go wrong, we could lose. Otherwise, there's no story. But definitely there can be things that are also off the table and make sure that all performers feel like safe in the story, and that's important too. So we'll figure out that balance for sure. But let's get started. And maybe why don't we start with a figure? This doesn't have to be your character, Moroki, but if you like start feeling things about this character, maybe we can think about it that being that way. But let's start with a figure this time instead of with a faction. The other thing that we can do is in our last session we talked a little bit about a special kind of rule called manual override, which is where rather than drawing a queue, if you have a prompt that you're building and you know for sure that like rather than drawing a random cue to learn more about this animal, I'm going to decide that this animal is allied with a faction or is like used as a steed of the faction. We can do manual overrides for your character. So like if we're building a character and you're like, hey, actually, I think this person belongs to a faction and I want to know what faction they belong to because that'll help me understand my character's mindset and like what their social ties are. You can just tell me like, let's do a faction instead. So keep in mind we can always do manual overrides if you want.
Yes.
Um,
And for anyone who's joining us for the very first time on Lore Master's deck overall on
oh
Backer
yeah,
Kit
I
or a
always forget to do
campaign,
this.
um, if you haven't seen how it works before, we do have a how-to video, and I'm actually going to take a quick moment and throw it back in there because I think we might have not. Whenever we go live, obviously our first video bumps from our pitch video down to the live, but we have to kind of manually stick the video into our story, and we might not have done that this time. There's already so many little manual things sometimes you just need to do, and I'm just going to stick that in. That way, if you're joining us for the first time and you want a quick how-to just to get caught up with what we're doing and about to do, I'll put that there for you. But Peter, please feel free to kind of get the ball rolling while I put out that update.
Sure. Well, then let's start with a figure card. And Moroki, let me know if any of these sound like a character type that you'd be interested in, and we can
Okay.
start reserving this for you. But our character is going to be a monarch, a physician, a commander, or a lawyer. So go ahead and vote in the comments for which of those cues you would like to see active for a character that we're going to introduce to our world. This might be an NPC. This might be a character in the backstory of the world who had a big impact on it. We don't know yet. We'll find out together. Monarch, physician, commander, or lawyer. I'm always partial to a like commander character myself. I have in the home game. I just introduced a sort of halfling war hero captain named Gideon Hearthsand, who
Gideon
uh, is
Hearthsand.
very is not based on, but definitely I'm starting to realize is a lot like what's his name, the Mountie from the show with the Mountie and then the cool cop. Uh, very Canadian content here.
I have no
Um,
idea.
someone in the comments, please. Is a no, I can't remember it. Yeah, but it's a classic like unusual cop partners, and one of them is just like a very straight laced Mountie. And this character is a little bit like that. All right, so we've got votes for physician, commander, um, physician. I think the physicians have it. Yeah, Frasier from but what's the show? What's the show? What's the show? It's like really bothering me that I can't remember it. But yeah, Frasier is the name of the character. Physician, commander, physician, commander. Okay, so we got votes for physician. So we got a physician character here, which could be a cleric character. You're putting it in terms of due south, Benton Fraser. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. That was you've scratched the itch for me. Due south, Benton Fraser. Okay, so we got a physician character, and we're going to draw some more cues. And yeah, Maruki, if you are interested in playing a cleric, which is a class in D&D that has a lot of access to healing spells, positioning them as a physician would be an interesting call because like them having medical knowledge of the body as well as magical solutions for healing could be an interesting thing. So putting that on your radar in case you're interested. But let's give this some traits to this physician. The physician could have a background where they have a lifelong infatuation with another character. They could have an agenda where they're trying to gain entry into a faction. They can have a trait where they're kind of a bully, or they could have a trait where they have a very positive attitude. So go ahead and vote in the comments as to which of these you'd like to see. And Moroki, if anything about this character starts to like vibe with for you, let me know, and you can start calling some of these shots.
I'm curious to what other people will see. I will say that the character hasn't quite vibed with me yet, but of course we just named physician, and I'm also that person. I'm definitely that FOMO person where I'm like, well, I don't want to vibe with anything yet. There's like we barely started. I need to like wait till I see more so I can pick.
Yeah.
I am definitely the give me all the choices and then I can pick my choice accordingly. I am absolutely that person.
That's fair. And we can always circle back and adjust things about this if like you later on you see something about the character that you like. So agenda, faction entry, PMA. I'm not sure what that means. Positive mental attitude. Oh, love it. Okay, thank you. Positive mental attitude. So we've got agenda, faction entry, positive mental attitude, and agenda again. So I think we've got 2 for the agenda where they're trying to gain entry into a faction. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll put it right up here so that we have room to expand. Okay, let's draw another trait. We've got a background where they have a family fortune in a specific resource. We have an agenda where they're trying to complete an innovative prototype. We have a trait where they're obsessed with a specific species. Or we have a trait where they're a social chameleon or butterfly, meaning that they can blend into any situation or they just kind of drift through different social atmospheres. So yeah, you can go ahead and vote for background, agenda, species, or social.
Background, agenda, species. The idea that they have a family fortune is interesting to me because it's like, and that's how they're a physician because their family could pay for it. They didn't have
Their
to work
family could
hard.
pay for school. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that. All right, we've got obsessed with species. Okay, we got a lot of votes for species.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, it's always very interesting to see what a lot of people lean towards.
Well, I have learned, like honestly, so much from doing these live streams just the past 2 weeks, because so much of this deck has just been me playing with it alone, or me showing you or Eric, or Eric is our community manager, who's the one who's running the comments for us right now, who also is going to be writing for the deck. And then like Jasmine sees all the prototypes of all the things I make and gives a lot of design input and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always really interesting to see what aspects different people pick up on. But having opened this up to a larger group and like doing prompts live with them has been just an amazing experience. I've learned a lot about what other people see in the cards, and cues that I'd overlook suddenly become interesting. And I just realized that I've been doing this wrong, and we're supposed to be drawing the faction and the species to fill out those prompts. So I'm going to quickly let's draw the species first, and then we'll go back and do the faction. So our species of creature that they're obsessed with is either a cephalopod, a dragonfly, a tree, or a boar. All right. We got tentacles, wings, leaves, and tusks. But yeah, go ahead and vote for cephalopod, dragonfly, tree, or boar for what our physician is obsessed with. Hi, Eric.
I feel like it would go in some really specific directions depending on what you pick as the
Yeah,
answer there.
definitely. All right, we've got votes for dragonfly, cephalopod. I think the dragonflies have it. Interesting pitch from Keith for the tree, and it has the tree may have healing properties. We've got dragonfly, but it could be that the dragonfly is actually like medicinal, or that like some component of its body when ground up has a medicinal effect. We can definitely look into that, and I think we'll be pulling that dragonfly out to learn more about it before too long. And now let's find out the faction that the physician wants to get into. Is it a siblinghood? And just to explain this card, brotherhood and sisterhood are both gendered terms, and I wanted to have a gender neutral term. I know that traditionally those gendered terms sometimes feel more evocative because they have like a longer. We can think of more examples where like there's a brotherhood or a sisterhood from stories, but I really wanted to have a more gender neutral term that people could see themselves in. So siblinghood can be any one of those things. It can be a brotherhood, sisterhood, siblinghood, however you want to interpret it. We have a crew that they're trying to get into, a conspiracy, or a corporation that they want to get into, which would be really interesting because that's very much a privatized medicine. We don't do that here in Canada. Very much a privatized medicine kind of thing. All right, votes starting to come in. Oh, a cousinhood. Oh, I like that too. A cousinhood where like you see them a little bit less often, but every time you do, it's a lot of fun. All right, cousinhood, siblinghood, crew, siblinghood. All right, I think we got enough to call that for siblinghood. Okay.
I guess what's interesting about the siblinghood too is that there could be a positive or negative way of spinning it, in that the negative way of spinning it is either that they feel like the odd one out in their family and they're hoping that by doing XYZ they can ingratiate themselves back in. Maybe they were like the weird one because they want to go and grind up dragonflies all the time, and everyone's like, maybe you should not go like murder a bunch of dragonflies. And they're like, but if we do this, like we're gonna solve, I don't know, world hunger, or maybe one of my siblings is ill and I'm gonna be able to heal them. And I'm actually doing a good thing.
I really like that pitch, and I actually wonder if this might end up being Jordan's character, because Jordan has given me some notes on what they want the character to be, but given me permission to do some building for them. And a lot of our players are going to be building their characters after we build the world to make sure that those characters have roots in the stuff that we put together. But a creepy necromancer who is a physician, so they know how the body works. They're like an expert on death,
Yeah,
and who's obsessed with the species and possibly grinding up dragonfly bodies. Like all of that has necromancer vibes. Um,
it's true.
Jordan's given me some other notes about their character that none of it clashes with this. So we definitely could do. Have some fun with this being inspiration for Jordan's character. All right, let's do another one. Go ahead and vote in the comments. We have a background where they have an unacknowledged child or heir. We have an agenda where they're trying to survive an event. We have a trait where they have a very intense gaze. And we have a trait where they are forgetful. Keith here with a wonderful necromancer joke. Did you heal him? Well, he's up and about. Love it.
It's like 2 steps away from a pun for me. I know it's not
Yeah.
a pun, but I can feel
I mean,
the
it's wordplay.
energy.
It's wordplay. Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel the energy. I can feel the energy.
All right, we got a three-way tie in the vote right now. Oh, and another one coming in with survive an event, that's 2 for the agenda. I'll give it another couple seconds here. All right, I think that seals it for survive an event. This is good. And events are nice because that gives me they make very good plot hooks. So I'm going to move this whole cluster in a little bit to give myself some room to expand. And let's find out about what the event is. Is the event going to be a feast, a cataclysm, an election, or a boom? And boom, I like this one because it can be like a boom as in like an explosion of something metaphorically, like the baby boom, or it could just be like boom, like something goes kablooey. And I very much like the wordplay there in the open interpretation. And trying to survive a feast is really a creepy concept because it means like, are you the food? Is that what's going on here? All right, we've got feast, cataclysm, election, cataclysm, cataclysm. I think that makes 3 for cataclysm. And as someone who could be doing storytelling in this world, there being a potential like world-ending event that the characters get involved in is like perfect stakes for getting things going right off the bat. That's more votes for cataclysm. Okay, awesome. Let's seal the deal on that. All right. And the last one for this character, background where they were betrayed by another figure. Agenda where they want to petition a faction for help. Trait where they're kind of a pushover, or trait where they're a creative or divergent thinker.
There's something interesting about them being a pushover. Don't you think this is me trying to convince the audience to go for this physician being a pushover? There's something about like if you have really strong values about something and something you're really like focused on, and yet you also have this like alternate tension of someone just like willing to influence and just kind of change your opinion at the drop of a hat can make it a very unstable circumstance.
Yeah, and I definitely like characters who have, if not contradictions, then internal tensions where part of
Mhm.
who they are doesn't necessarily line up with their goals, and that
Mhm.
becomes a really good engine for struggle. I definitely like that pitch. But we've got
Although we
tons of
have
votes for
lots
divergent.
of votes on divergent thinkers, so
Wonderful. All right. Well, then that'll be there, and that's nice because it's nice to have one non-linking prompt up at the top because we're not going to be expanding up that way anyway. All right, Moroki, tell me, are we going to look at the Cataclysm, the Siblinghood, or the Dragonfly next? What are we expanding?
ah, either the siblinghood or the dragonfly, I think, because I think in some ways they might link out to either another faction or another figure, which maybe at that point I might see some inspiration in there for myself.
Yeah, and the
I
other
mean, who
thing,
knows? I mean, who knows? The cataclysm could be caused by a particular figure or faction too, or something. So
yeah,
that might be me closing my mind off to the opportunities. And
no, it's
we
all
all know that
opportunities.
Muro.
It's all opportunities now. So we just got to pick a path, and
It's true,
definitely
and
see
you
where
know,
it leads.
Moroki likes kind of being the initiator of cataclysms, right?
Well, I definitely want every character. I love a story where every character has like one secret that might come out. And if you have a connection to the Cataclysm, we can figure that out backstage. Um, the other thing that is, yeah. So anytime, like if this faction turns out to be interesting, we may not need a figure card for you. We might just decide you're part of the faction. If the species is interesting and you're like, I
Mhm.
want to be a biologist of that, we can just lock that in. Any of this can be food for your character. Likewise, like a location that you like, you can be from that town or from that area. If an object comes up and we come up with a cool homebrew item or artifact, and you want to be like the curator of it, or like that's your artifact, anywhere you see yourself inserting, just call it, and we'll do it.
Yeah, I
Those
like
are
the folks like Thomas giving me some ideas here. It could be a dragonfly breeder or trainer. I
ooh,
I
that's
don't know if
fun.
it's because we talked about Pokemon earlier this week. My brain immediately was like, ah, yes. I will be a Pokemon trainer.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. But okay, so can you remind me? Have you picked one for what we're gonna do next? What
I
was the
have not, but let's lean into the Dragonfly for now.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to pull out Dragonfly as a reminder for how the deck works. When you pull out a prompt to expand it, you rotate it so that your choice is facing you. And that's so that whenever you're reviewing the cards, you can always the cues that are active are always facing you for the primary cues. And then we are going to pull a wild card, and the wild card has two purposes. One is they're one-word descriptions that can describe pretty much any type of card. So it's just nice to have something that is relayerable with all the card types in the deck. And the second thing it does is all the cards have little arrows on them, and that helps you track how the connections flow across your lore web. So go ahead and vote for one of these 8 choices. Is this Dragonfly philanthropic, connected, historic, clunky, metallic, blossoming, noble, or cascading? Go ahead and vote for one of those options. Any of these that you like, Maruki, or any of these pique your interest creatively? We got philanthropic, connected, historic, clunky, metallic, blossoming, noble, and cascading. I like this side of the card myself.
Can you imagine if the Dragonfly is noble, and if the physician's obsessed with it, and if they are grinding it up, that like adds an extra level of
Horror.
cruelty around it.
Yeah, or just like it's this like beautiful, majestic creature, and it's just like, no, into the meat grinder.
Yeah, it's kind of that whole thing. I don't remember, there's always that trope that exists in a lot of lore where there's always this one particular band or race or species where they are seen as noble, but someone else sees them as disposable and expendable.
Yeah.
And looks down on them. Although we're getting actually some torn votes here. Looks like there's a lot of different choices. A couple for blossoming. Raven likes clunky. We have metallic, cascading. We have votes everywhere, obviously, with blossoming Raven's saying blossoming or clunky, and there's a little black heart next to blossoming. It's almost like
metallic named Bubo. Nice. Okay, so metallic, blossoming, cascading, clunky, historic, blossoming. I think that's 2 for metallic and 2 for blossoming. So let's go with blossoming. I kind of, as the person going to be storytelling the Dragonfly here, I kind of like the idea that the that like the Dragonfly may have almost like a flower-like appearance, and so like literally its like body cycle includes like for a while it looks like a seed, and then it literally opens, and like the wings are very petal-like and unfurl that way. And yeah. Just give me a moment here. Raven, is that you, Raven, fellow player in Trash Heroes? I don't think I've seen your YouTube channel before. So if you are Raven, then hello, wonderful to see you. And don't tell Alina anything that we cook up here because it's supposed to be a secret, and no spoilers for them. Wonderful. Actually,
I like how Kaito's like saying when we give you twice as many choices. ... It's one of those moments where it's like, oh, I wish it's like you almost need like a big poll so you can get the graph so you can see the little bit of differences.
It is Raven. Raven, no pressure here. I can send you a link if you want to join us in creating the world here. And again, with the sworn to secrecy from Alina. But if you'd like to make some creative choices and join the stream, let me know, and I will in Discord. I'll send you the join link. Absolutely no pressure. But otherwise, Raven, please drop your links in the chat because I think people would really love to check out your work. Raven is a performer, artist, and also role player. And has some very cool projects going on, including performance art pieces, and I think y'all would love checking them out. So, but do feel free to drop your links, and if you'd like, just let me know in the chat, and I'll send you a little join link. You can pop on for us for a bit. Okay, blossoming dragonfly. Awesome. Okay, so we may have Raven join in a little bit later. I'll send you the link. When you come into here, you'll be in a little backstage area, and then you can just send me a message when you're ready to pop on, and I'll put you in. But I'll send you that link in just a moment. Okay, so more traits for our dragonfly here. It's undead. It has a background where it's detested or misunderstood by a faction. A trait where it has blubber or a hump. So noble. I would love like a big lumpy dragonfly. I think that'd be really a very. I think it's a very cute idea. A trait where they have asexual reproduction, and those are our 4 options. So you can put detested, hump, asexual, or undead.
I guess the undead part could play some really weird way in the tie-in with if Jordan ends up taking the character of the physician and these dragonflies are actually weirdly undead, which might explain the physician's obsession with them.
Yeah, actually, that makes so much sense. So I'm gonna just say I'm calling the vote here. We're doing undead. That's a really good idea. Beautiful. Okay, let's do that. Actually, yeah, we'll do undead. And I'm gonna do a double call here. I'm gonna say that they're detested and misunderstood by the siblinghood. I think it's really cool if this physician's trying to gain entry, but
Thomas literally just said that, detested in brackets by siblinghood.
beautiful. I think we're doing this as a called shot. I think that's gonna be so good. Yeah, I just think that'll be fantastic. And actually, I'm going to bust out. This is a stretch goal that I'm really hoping that we hit, but we want to add a set of tokens to every deck. We have not announced this stretch goal yet because it's past the ones that we've currently funded, but we will be announcing the next batch of stretch goals soon. But
Yeah,
they're little
we're working on it behind the scenes. It's like we're trying. It's probably taking all our efforts to not just like spill all the beans. Mostly because we're still fine tuning a few couple of things, so we don't want to be like this, and then we're like jokes. Actually, not that. But we have a lot of cool new items that we haven't unveiled yet. So even if we haven't announced it, if you want to help us get there, obviously, please share the backer kit
Yeah.
page with your friends, your family, your enemies.
Yeah. Please send it to your enemies.
Yes,
Most
please
of
send
all.
it to your enemies. Hey, we don't know. Like maybe they'll benefit from it. Maybe it'll help them, and maybe they'll stop being your enemy. All you have to do, you can obviously share the link on the top of the backer kit page, right underneath the back it button. There's actually some social shares as well, where you can share on Twitter, Facebook, email, and or you can copy the link and send it to your friends as well. I think right now, like the biggest support you could give us is sharing the good word. If you love our products, if you love Story Engine, if you love Peter and what we do, I think that's what's gonna keep our community growing and making it all more happy and stuff, so we can all continue to create cool campaigns together with undead dragonflies and physicians. So yes, please do share. Of course, like a backer kit is a brand new platform that we're participating on, and it's been such a joy working with them on like through this campaign, and it's completely new. It's very different than it's very different than what our previous experiences with Kickstarter. Obviously, one of the opportunities being able to go live with you all. So please do share, and I think it'll be fun. All right, you're drawing arrows now. That actually helps. That's actually something that I said to Peter when he first showed me the Lore Masters deck. I remember saying to him, I'm like, I need arrows. Like I was showing him how I used to mind map because I do a lot of strategy work. That's sort of what I do by day, right? I do a lot of business strategy, and when I do these mind maps, I'm always like putting these huge arrows that's like, actually this thing over here connects with this thing over here, and it's all a really big, beautiful, holistic world. And sometimes it's hard to see that here. So these tokens is something that we would love to add as a stretch goal to the Lore Masters deck.
If we hit this, you 100% have to thank Maroki for it, because she was the champion for like kept being like, hey, it'd be cool, but like it's gonna add a lot of cost to the deck, and she's like, it honestly, I think it's gonna add so much for function. I know that for like you said, for your brain, like you don't just want to have to remember or keep tabs open for like what the connections are. Being able to visualize them is so helpful. So yeah, if we hit that, y'all got to thank Maroki. Let's do a little vote. Last trait for our species here. They have a background where there's a notable subspecies of them at a specific location. Trait where they have an unusual size. trait where they're a detritivore or coprophage. Coprophage is a poop eater, by the way, in case you didn't know. Detritivore is a detritus eater, like they eat like breaking down or decaying matter. That can include poop, but specifically we have an option. There's in the deck. There's a dedicated card for eating poop. I just thought you should all know that. And then a rapid mutator.
Good to
I'm
know.
not gonna call this shot, but I am gonna say um, that I think a species at a location would be cool because we don't have any locations yet, and that'll help for figuring out where we might set the story. So if you're interested in seeing that, give that a vote. But otherwise, we can keep things open.
I will say Lore Master's deck is also there to help increase vocabulary for everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
We actually, I remember a while ago when we were, when the business was growing and we decided that it would be a smart thing as a business to get business insurance for ourselves. It was also required. We are available on shelves in Indigo across Canada. For those of you who don't know, Indigo, it's Canada's largest books and gifts retailer. So it's like Barnes and Noble for all of our state friends. But they also sell like candles and blankets and journals and stuff like that. And one of the things they did require for us to do was get business insurance to make us more official and stuff. And when I was speaking to the broker and telling them about Story Engine, it was specifically for Story Engine, they actually said this would actually be really great for help for ESL students and teaching English in classrooms. And it was like a little bit of a mind blown moment for me. I was like, oh my God, I never thought about it like that before. That's great.
Well, and especially Story Engine and Deck of Worlds, because the cards have a thematic grouping. So, like an agent card will literally have a picture that shows, it gives context for what the words mean, and the
Hmm.
words are usually linked, right? So if like one of the prompts is student, another one will be learner, and another one will be apprentice, and like all of those are linked by the theme of learning. So it becomes a really good way to learn synonyms, to learn related words and concepts and themes, and to do that with a visual support. So yeah, really good. And actually, that was we have a curriculum developer who's doing a review of this, Kendra Harrison. She's written all of our lesson plans so far. She's been so good at identifying ways to use the deck for different forms of learning. We really should just straight up do a ESL focused lesson plan for how to use the cards for vocabulary, because I don't think that's specifically in them yet. It's like a side benefit, but doing a
I
more
mean, given
structured,
that I'm
yeah,
ESL, like I can say for sure that tools like that would have certainly helped me a lot more in school because I was very creative in school. And the thing was is that I had perfect spelling. The funny part was is that like I didn't speak English very well, but I had perfect spelling because I think it just had like I was very very visual. So obviously, as someone who didn't know English, I'm going to do everything I can to learn. And I was really I always had like 10 out of 10 in spelling, but I really struggled at stringing the words together or even just articulating them. And when you're trying to be creative, you have a limited vocabulary, it's hard to kind of move past those particular parameters. And I think a tool like that would be awesome in schools and just helping because sometimes if the teacher themselves is not, if English is their first language, I think sometimes it's hard to conceptualize how a student might pick it up, and students at different ages too, right? Like that insurance broker actually even spoke about like this is not like I think this would be great for adult learning ESL as well. It's an opportunity to be creative and explore the English language in a more creative way versus just saying like I eat an apple and here's a dog.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that especially because people think very much in stories, like our brains are wired to think about desire and action and consequence, just on like an evolutionary level. I think that the structure of storytelling, especially in Story Engine, like Story Engine literally forms sentences, right? It forms grammatically correct things
Mhm.
in a way that the brain is designed to understand, because we're used to people wanting to do things and what could happen if they do. And that's like exactly how those prompts work. So yeah, I think definitely that's cool.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think what Brian said is actually very correct as well, revisiting
yeah.
definitions and synonyms because it's even what we've talked about even using the deck because sometimes we get stuck in particular words and language and patterns and using Story Engine deck of Worlds and now Lore Masters deck help break past those patterns as well. And I like how Kaito's saying D. I like how you and I both saw it at the
Yeah,
same time.
same time.
DOWO lingo,
Yeah, Deck of Worlds a lingo. Love
deck
it.
of Worlds lingo.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Gotta keep that owl happy. All right. So for the location that the subspecies is located at, is that a compound, a mine, a glacier, and then a word that I've only read, I think it's butte, not but it could just straight up be but. But yeah, a but or butte is like I think it's like a mesa-like rock formation. Um, there's a bunch in like the American Southwest has a bunch of buttes or buttes. Um, And yeah, go ahead and vote for compound, mine, glacier, or butte or butte. Glacier would be an interesting one because generally
Google
speaking,
pronunciation says it's called Butte.
butte. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. But yeah, so go ahead and vote. And yeah, glacier would be very interesting because actually, oh, I kind of want to do a called shot on glacier here. I'm gonna do a cold shot on glacier. I think undead dragonflies being the only kind that can get to survive in cold climates and get to a glacier is a really interesting concept, and I think I'm gonna play with that. So I'm gonna call glacier. If there's an overwhelming vote elsewhere, I'll switch it up. But I'm gonna default to glacier and give a few more seconds for votes to roll in. Mostly people are just talking about how to say butte.
I will say there's nothing more intimidating than suddenly needing to do creative and marketing right language towards writers to make you re-examine your copy content, like your copy all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, all the time, all the time. I'm constantly like writing, I'm like, is that grammatically correct? Should I actually put that comma there? Like, like my suddenly I'm much less forgiving of my rambly way of writing, which I know is very much my style of writing. I definitely am a little bit of a rambler and I write in a very, very colloquial way. Now that I don't need to actually write English essays anymore. And I'll definitely say I've been a lot more considerate ever since then. And I think pronouncing words is also on that docket where I'm like, dang, I'm hanging out with people who probably have some incredible mastery over the English language. I really need to get my act together. Before we move on, we have a really quick question from Sylvie here saying, will the Lore Master Beta PDF be out earlier than 2024? And oh dear.
Yeah, I know. Horrible.
Yeah. Dad got hit by a car yesterday. I'm really sorry. That's really terrible. There's really no words around that. That's just effing terrible. Need to help him
Yeah.
out. We can add on stuff later. Yes, of course you can add on stuff later.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely. All of the core deck, all the cards are not campaign exclusives. So if there's any financial reason that you miss it, that's like, don't feel like, well, now I'll never get it. And we will be opening a pledge manager after the campaign. So there may be price adjustments and things like that. But Sylvie, this is like a horrible circumstance. So if you send us a message about like I wanted to back during the campaign and just remind us of that, we might be able to honor some of the campaign time prices for you. Yeah, just send us an email about that, or we have a contact page because that's really horrible. And yeah, obviously anything you can do to help your dad after a situation like that would be huge. But yeah, and in terms of the timing, probably so right now the schedule is that we're going to be sometime between January and March. We're going to be releasing the beta PDF. It could be available before then, but I never like to promise early delivery. Like
can't rush an artist.
Yeah, I don't. I very much. I like to have the time to be an artiste if I need it. But between January and March 2024 is when we're scheduling. Possible it could be available earlier, but I definitely don't want to promise that or raise expectations that we may not be able to meet. Yeah. But why don't we keep expanding our world here? And let's do the next one as a sprint, Moroki. Let's do the next one, you and me. We're just gonna go back and forth picking prompts for it, and it'll be like timer. Like you have like 10 seconds to pick the prompts, and then we'll do the next one open group again. So do you want to?
The group is about to find out what goes on in both of our brains, apparently.
Yeah. This is like no time to think. This is just unfiltered choice making. So Cataclysm, siblinghood, or glacier. Which one do you want to expand?
Let's go with the siblinghood. I think that was the one I did want to lean into as well at one point. So
right on.
Like and then we upend the tokens.
There we go. Bam. Okay. So siblinghood. We'll start with the aspect. This will be you. So you get to pick one of these 8 cues. Glazed, slender, revelatory, straining, interesting, outspoken, dank, or experimental.
So if I allude or like am considering being someone who's part of a siblinghood, I definitely think it would be an outspoken siblinghood. So let's go with outspoken.
Love it. Great choice. And yeah,
it's absolutely who I am. I have a big mouth.
Awesome. Okay, so then I grabbed the wrong card. I grabbed another wild card, and now we need a trait. So I'll pick this one. A background that the siblinghood has changed names. They have an agenda to keep or protect an object. A trait where they have vast stockpiles of a material, or a trait where they are gifted in secrecy and shadow tactics. I do love a shadowy siblinghood. I love lore where like they've changed names. But I want to get some objects going. So I'm going to do keep or protect an object. And there we go.
Especially
So
if the object might be something that caused like the rift between the physician and the siblinghood, maybe.
yeah, or they could be connected to the Cataclysm in some way. I love a good world-ending artifact. So I'm going to quickly pick one here. We've got a sling or slingshot, an instrument, a visor, or a world-ending truck. I love that it's like a monster truck to end all monster
Oh
trucks.
man,
That can
that's
just
that's
plow
the
over the world.
comedian me wanting to come up. I'm like, yeah, truck. Just something that is so kind of fantasy lore centric that just kind of goes right off the deep end.
That's
That's
one of
like the
those ones
whack
that
in me.
I wrote it into the alpha, and this is the alpha that we're using, so a lot of these cards may change. I wrote it into the alpha being like, this is a bit goofy, but I want vehicles to be part of the objects. Like, I really want to look at some vehicles.
As a
And
giant
we'll
Transformers
see.
fan, I appreciate this. I
I'm
need
gonna
I need
go. I'm gonna call
I
this
need
one
some sentient
with the
vehicles in my
visor.
life.
I'm gonna call this one with the visor, and I'm not gonna explain why because I think that might be a little bit of a secret that comes out in the campaign. So zip in my mouth on that one, and we're gonna keep that a secret. All right, Moroki, this one's yours.
All right.
I pulled an object card instead of a faction. All right, this one's you. A background where they are keepers of predictions or prophecies. Oh, this card was drawn in the demo that we ended up using for the actual pitch video. So the one that we chose in the pitch video was keepers of predictions or prophecies. They have an agenda where they want to guard or capture an animal, spirit, or deity. A trait where they're very bad at public relations, or a trait where they are experts at harvesting or working with a specific material.
Oh man, can you imagine if they're outspoken and very bad at public relations? It's
That would
like
be
I'm
really
really
funny.
outspoken, right? It's like I'm really outspoken, but I cannot get my point across, and I just alienate everyone when I'm trying to share like what might be a really like good and progressive thing. Like, can you imagine? Okay, here's the situation. Imagine if the physician was actually like really charismatic, and that's sort of why they rifted with the siblinghood, and they don't think he's necessarily doing a good thing, and they keep being like, no, he's not doing a good thing. Like when he's grinding up dragonflies, it's actually a really bad thing. And everyone's like, you guys like, but they're just coming out and they're just being like, you are all foolish. Like you foolish mortals, you do not understand the dangers that is upon you and you're stupid. And then people are like, wow, we don't want to listen to you because you suck. And it's like, oh my God, no one ever listens to us, even though we're trying to do good things for the world and literally trying to prevent the world from a cataclysm.
Yeah.
If that's what you're alluding to, considering that you're talking about trying to protect things from that may break worlds. I kind of dig that. Let's do that. They're bad at public relations.
Bad at public relations. Amazing.
That's probably also why I don't see. Maybe these are all reflections of me because I'm not necessarily the best at customer service either. I've always said to people before the smile comes back on my face when I used to work in retail, you'll immediately see like the daggers go across my eyes before it's like, oh yes, let me help you with that.
Shout out to the malicious compliance subreddit, which is one of my favorite little subreddits to hang out in. Amazing. Okay, and then last one. Why don't you pick this one again? They have a background where they were unduly credited with solving a crisis. An agenda where they want to accumulate influence. A trait where they are made powerful because of their proximity to a different faction. Or a trait where they have an ancestral power system.
Oh. I'm trying to should I pick ones that are similar to unduly credited might be interesting because maybe they feel a really strong need to live up to a particular reputation that they know they didn't earn. But it's like too much time has gone on for them to renege, and maybe it wasn't even them. Like maybe several generations later, they're like, oh my God, like, oh shit, we didn't actually do this thing.
Yeah.
And now we have to live up to it. And they're like,
fun.
oh my God, we have to live up to something that our like great grandparents got credited for.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, let's do that.
Okay. And then I'm going to pick the crisis. And then we'll do another one with group input. So the crisis that they were unduly credited with for resolving a revival. An extinction. I'm picking it. I'm picking it. It's extinction.
Oh
The
no.
undead dragonflies. Everyone believes that they are the ones that figured out how to bring them back from extinction by making an undead version of them, and it wasn't them. And the reason that they're detested or misunderstood by a faction because the faction thought for a while that it was them, but it wasn't them. The physician, the more he learns about them, the more he might find out that these people that he idolizes and wants to join are okay. I got to no more, no more. Some of this lore we got to save for the stream, and some of it the players should not know about. It'll be part of my evil plan. Brilliant. Okay, so chat, why don't you vote for Cataclysm, Visor, Extinction, or Glacier for what we are going to create next?
Also, guys, I am totally eating chocolate and candy pecans on screen because it's Friday, and that's just what I decided to do for myself.
Love it.
Vote went quiet.
The votes. I am confident the votes will come in. Treat yourself. Treat yourself. All right.
I
We'll give it a
definitely
few
am
more
treating
seconds,
myself.
and if nothing comes in, we can pick. We'll pick one to expand.
This also might be one of those. Oh no! We have to acknowledge there's always a 20-second delay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say just so that the delay isn't too long. I'm gonna go ahead with Glacier.
Oh, we got one for extinction.
Ooh, we could do the. I think I know. I think I know what the extinction is because it links to the dragonflies. So I don't think I need to know too much more about that one yet. But I do want to know about their environment. So I might override and do Glacier. Okay. And we could even do a little link between the. Oh shoot! The dragonflies I did not rotate properly. My bad. Should be like that. And I'm going to go ahead and link those now to the extinction. So that I remember that those are connected. Amazing. Let's go ahead and figure out this glacier. So chat, we're going to vote first on the wild card. Is the glacier transparent, striped, dramatic, fortifying, burdened, anti-intellectual? I want to know what an anti-intellectual glacier is like. Secure or archaeological?
Do you ever
Oh,
feel like that it's like, I don't know about you. I know when I pick wild cards, I always wanted to stimulate something new. So sometimes when it's just descriptive, I'm like, ugh, not enough. It has to get messy.
well, for me, the messy option here that I really like is archaeological, because archaeology on a glacier is already something I don't know about, and now I want to know about. Like, I know
Mhm.
the ice preserves things. So, what would archaeological record in a glacier look like? And the moment you have stuff buried somewhere in a location that the party might have to go to, that gives me as a DM like so much to work with, in terms of like storytelling potential. So let's see what we get for votes here. Um, striped, archaeological, striped, fortifying, or archaeological. Archaeological. So that makes 3. Oh yeah, we have our first Facebook vote. I know mostly our participation has been on YouTube, but we have a vote from Tyler on Facebook, and then another from Kaitu. So let's go ahead with archaeological. That's going to point from here to here. We know that that is connecting these two prompts. Because there's no visible wildcard connecting extinction here, we know that they're not actually related. Awesome. All right, let's vote on.
Yet.
Yeah, yet. It can always come up through the card draws.
Sometimes things don't have to be connected. This is me calling out George Lucas. It does. In a galaxy far, far away, in a big galaxy, you do not need every single character to interconnect within a timeline.
That's true. That's definitely true. Alrighty, let's figure out some details about the glacier. A background where it's frequently depicted in art or literature. A trait where it's ridged or thorny. A trait where the glacier has unique windows or balconies, and we could further furnish that by deciding on a material that they're made from, but it's optional. It doesn't need to be what's unique about it. Trait where there's a rare species of creature. I'm going to veto that one because we already know that it's got the undead dragonflies, and I think that it would be a hat on a hat to add more species. And then background, frequently, oh yeah, we already said that one, frequently depicted in art or literature. So you can vote for the background, for ridged thorny, for unique windows, or for, yeah, those will be the 3 that we'll look at here. Good point from Tyler here. This is one of the things that I do like about the decks. I love unintuitive pairings. There's more fun in explaining why things don't always match up. Weird time stuff, different reality, doppelgangers. Like I like when there's a little bit of work to do to solve how the story comes together. We got windows, we got frequently depicted and frequently depicted. I think that's going to be votes. That's 2. We got the majority for frequently depicted. So let's go ahead. Yeah, there we go. That'll clinch it. Plump that there. Okay. We'll draw another one. All right. Is this glacier the site of a specific battle or crisis? Dry or arid? Does it have beautiful tended gardens? Ooh. Or a trait where it has nests or hives of a material or a creature. So we could draw a material and find out like what kind of structures the dragonflies build to live in here. I also like the idea of like tended gardens on a glacier, like either of these like pockets of greenhouses or some kind of like frost horticulture. It's kind of neat. Dry or arid, I think most glaciers are already. Well, no, actually, that's not true. There's a lot of ice fields that are like constantly like in a melt state. And then specific battle or crisis would be interesting too. Any of these tickling your fancy, Maruki? Oh, I think you've muted yourself.
Sorry, I decided no one needed to hear the crunch of toffee. I guess the interesting about dry or arid around a glacier is that it's like, is it dry or arid? The glacier is one of the few sources of water, or site of a specific battle or crisis. Beautifully tended gardens. I mean, it would be nice to add something a little more romantic to something after, we have all these things about grinding up dragonflies and siblings and secrets and stuff.
Yeah.
We have, yeah, there's some mixes. Beautiful. It was actually one of those things I was, so when Eric is always coming up with these prompts for photos and for our socials and just to share with people, I'm always like, why are they always just seem to end so gnarly? Like there's always just some, it's like you have this positive thing and now there's a bad thing. It's like there's this port, it's so lovely, there's some sailors, and now there's an infestation. And I remember saying to him one time, I'm like, can we just have like a lovely scene? Like everything's just lovely for once. And that was like just totally my ask. So I want the gardens for that particular reason.
So let's corner tuck it. Let's do both. We're gonna do the nests and or hives, and we're gonna do beautiful tended gardens. And now we're gonna draw a material card to determine what material it's made from. Now, I'm not going to draw another creature card, so instead I'm going to honor the 2 symbols and draw 2 material cards to give us some choice. So are the nests made from alcohol, silver, plaster, stone, protein, feathers, a mineral, and when there's a more open-ended prompt like mineral, feel free to give a pitch for what you think the mineral would be, or husks. Actually, hold on, I might override. I'm doing husks. They're undead, right? Like building it out of their molted dead bodies, or like the dragonflies that didn't make it in this mass extinction is just too weird to pass up. So we're doing husk for sure. Sorry, democracy.
I guess that's the DM coming in. I am the dungeon master.
We have a vote. We have one vote for husk, so I can pretend that it was a fair and equal election. And I think I'm about to mess up our UI for a second. Hold on. Oops, not what I wanted. There we go. Okay, I'm just trying to move our portrait so that your face is not covered when we show comments.
It's okay. When you cover my face, I'll just put another chocolate in my mouth.
And speaking of which, Maroki, if you ever need a break at any point, this stream is probably going to be about 2 hours, I think. So feel free to take a break at any point if you need to. Okay, let's keep expanding. I think the husks I know what I want to deal with. So let's find out about the Cataclysm or the Visor. Do you got a preference, Maroki? Cataclysm or Visor?
Well, I thought you said wanted to hide like the
Yeah,
visor, and that
actually,
there's a secret that you don't want to
yeah,
tell people about. So
I
I
take it
think
back.
we have to go
We're
with the
doing the
Cataclysm.
Cataclysm. We're doing the Cataclysm. All right. And in fact, that lets us expand into this space from on top, and we don't have to worry about blocking it off. All right, so we're dealing with the Cataclysm, and the Cataclysm, we're going to draw a wild card. So the Cataclysm can be a conscientious Cataclysm, an impractical Cataclysm, an endless Cataclysm, a nostalgic Cataclysm, a breathable Cataclysm, a canine Cataclysm, an irredeemable Cataclysm, or a gratifying Cataclysm. Ooh, that's an intriguing one.
Let's see, nostalgic, endless, impractical, conscientious. I'm trying to. What was the Cataclysm like? What was the kind of the trait that was tied to the Cataclysm again?
The trait that was tied to the Cataclysm. Not really. All we know is that the physician wants to survive it. All we know right now is that the physician wants to survive this Cataclysm, so it can be any of these things. I have some ideas about what I might do with this as a DM, but I also would be interested to fold in some other cues. So I'm eager for extra material here.
I mean, surviving an endless Cataclysm is interesting because if you are a necromancer, I like how we've just decided that this is Jordan's character. And
Yeah.
if you are a necromancer, an endless Cataclysm could kind of be like stuck in death forever, or wandering the valleys of death forever, never coming back to life. I know they made a reference to when they were creating the necromancer character, they were kind of making Abhorsen alluding to kind of the Abhorsen energy, and they had like those 9 stages of the underworld, and you can get lost and stuck in there. So an endless Cataclysm could be really bad for them that way.
Let's definitely do. I can work with endless. That's a fun one. Amazing. Okay, so then let's draw some more cues. Chat, you can vote. Catalyst of this event. So with the event cards, there are 2 types of cues. There are catalysts and there are fallouts. Catalysts are things that either caused or just contributed to or precipitated or sped up the event. And then there are fallouts, which are consequences that became because of it. So we're going to have a catalyst where a notable figure was a catalyst for the event. A catalyst where like red tape or bureaucracy could accelerate this event. A fallout where it causes the extinction or endangerment of a creature. We could tie that to the Dragonflies, or we could pull something new. Fallout where there is a religious conflict that results from it. And then back to our notable figure. So go ahead and vote for the figure, the tape, extinction, or conflict. Any of these vibing for you, Maroki?
I will admit I took a step back on this one because I knew we were voting, and I was like, I'm going to staunchly be neutral and not influence the vote. I mean, I think people are seeing some ties to extinction, I think, for obvious reasons. Some red tape from the faction being bad at being...
That tracks.
Well, Maya Naka is saying red tape from the faction being bad at public relations.
Yeah, I definitely have ideas from that. That definitely works. All right, so we've got a call for extinction. We got a few calls for extinction here, and it being related to the husks. So let's do that. And I think I'm going to make a little link pathway here.
I think that this is our biggest, the fascinating thing is I know the purpose is for a D&D setting, but I would say that this is probably the most complete demonstration of the Lore Masters deck in its full, and it's full level, it's full form being used today.
Just gonna lay out my my breadcrumbs here, and I'll link it to the dragonflies. It could be the husks, it could be the dragonflies. For now, I'll link it to the dragonflies, so I know that there's a little connection there. Awesome. All right, let's draw another card to pick another catalyst or fallout. It can have a catalyst where faction infighting is accelerating it. A catalyst where political maneuvering is accelerating it. A fallout where a figure will rise meteorically as a result of this happening. Or a fallout where a new art form gets invented because of it. You vibing any of those, Maruki?
The new art form's interesting. I think it's like without wanting to overlink things to previous things, because when I hear about faction infighting, obviously my brain's already going back to siblinghood, or anything with politics. I think it's tying back to sort of the original characters we created, but you have a new art form that kind of allows it to expand in another direction.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I like that. I like that a lot. We could do an override here, or we could do another vote for new art form.
Yeah, I sold it.
All right, we're doing new art form. Plonk that here, and then one more. And for this one, I'm going to ask if we can try and vote on one of the linked queues, one of the queues that prompts another queue, so that we can keep expanding on the side here. And once we fill this out, I want to keep building, and I might actually take a picture of this to preserve it for later, and then clear the board and start a new island that's we can cross-link to this, but we won't be able to do it all on camera just because I only have so much desk space here.
Yeah. And obviously for other people, you don't always you can either take pictures or write it down. I know for me, I like writing down all the lore cues, so it's kind of crafted out in my little booklet, and then clear the board, and then because at some point my visual brain and my writing brain sort of clash with each other, and I want to kind of see it captured in writing, but taking pictures is a way to kind of keep track of all your cues. I know some people actually have even said, I know they've taken pictures of their cues so that they can take it if they're like going to a cafe or something, they want to keep building on something that they have. They can have a little reference point and then build on top of that when they're on the road. So, or you can just build out a giant table, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat.
Sorry?
Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much a use it how you like it situation. I may see if I can get this on a board, like just slide the whole playmat onto a board and preserve it. But I'm gonna take a picture first because I'll probably just destroy it. All right, so for the event, we have a catalyst where it was catalyzed by public distrust in a faction or institution, where it's a catalyst of indecision. So if we do the distrust, then we'll create a new faction to figure out which faction distrust this was accelerated by. A fallout. Oh, this is a misprint, so we're not going to use that one. Or period of reason. Okay, so I'm actually going to redraw it because we only have one option there, and that's not much choice. And I have a typo in this. This is a queue.
The rare typo card worth $1,000 in 5 years from Lore Master's deck.
Straight up, you may remember that because we've already pulled that queue. That was an agent queue that I must have misfiled when I was doing all of the decks are based in spreadsheets, so we have a very complex system of exports to turn into TXT documents to data load them into InDesign, and that was a little error of mine. Little mid live stream reminder about our backer campaign. This is the Lore Masters deck that we are currently showcasing. If you're just stopping in for the first time, Lore Masters deck is a tool for creating webs of connected lore. You can create creatures and factions and figures, historical figures, locations, events. Maroki is currently being buried behind our shout out. But it's a really fun little tool, and you can pledge if you want. The other thing is, if you can't pledge, or if you've already pledged, we survive on word of mouth. We are very much a word of mouth community. If you can tell anyone about it who you think would find a cool tool, we would really love that.
Yeah, we have what is it, 21 days left on the campaign, and I think we would love to hit all our stretch goals. We have a lot of cool things yet to unlock. So if it's something you backed or something you've seen in the discussion boards, I think some of you have been part of our journey since day one. Just letting you know that some of the things you might have discussed in the discussion forum may come to light and will be revealed to you soon. So obviously the quicker you help us get there, the quicker that we can get those things into your hands as well. So please, please, please do the social shares. It really means so much to us. Shout out on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitch, I guess, whatever have you. You can tell that I don't do Twitch, which is why it never comes front of mind. Whoever you think will resonate with it will mean so much to us, and that you have the that you guys are part of our community some ways. I'm not wording myself very well. This is why I'm eating sugary pecans, guys, so that I can keep the brain juice going and not turn into a blubbering mess in front of everyone, just being like, I just love everyone so much and thank you so much for sharing. Thank you guys all so much for joining us also today on on this live stream, and kind of warming Maroki up for her D&D campaign next week. This is gonna it's
and speaking of, if you have any questions, Maroki, about D&D that you want to ask at any point, let me know. Feel free to fire those off, and I can share my answer. And I'm actually always one of the things about D&D is that everybody plays it so differently, and I'm always curious when you see conversations start up in like forums or like Facebook groups or Twitter about like how do you play D&D, and you find out like I've been doing something fundamentally different from someone else for a very long time, and it never occurred to me that I had these assumptions. And I love that like sometimes different cities will almost have their own subcultures of D&D or certain styles of play. So any questions you have would be really interesting to have the chat's answer to as well, because my answer might be totally different, and I love doing that. So if you end up with any D&D questions, Maroki, or if the chat is D&D questions, feel free to ask about.
I remember even yesterday, I think we were having a conversation about preparing for next week, and you were saying something that I think you understood what you were saying, and I had the moment where I was like, I think I understand, but not. And I guess it's really one of those. D&D is very much a game that seems to be extremely. There's like a structure to it, obviously, to help kind of craft the setting so that things are like on equal ground. Like I know the dice is being rolled for like there's a randomization of the power of an attack or the ability to escape. I know that's how the dice works. But there's obviously like a very free-flowing role-playing game component of it. And I think the example you told me are like, yeah, if you want to run up and stab someone in the back, and say you want to run up and stab someone in the back, and I will help walk us through the mechanics of it. And I was like, well, and I remember my immediate thought was like, well, when would I want to do something like that? Like, I'm like, am I allowed to just choose to suddenly stab my friend in the back and I can just say it at any time? Like, there's no structure. And this is the, like I said, this is the person that's like, I want to follow the rules of the game. So it's like, what do you mean that, like, is there going to be a prompt? Is there going to be something that's kind of indicates that Maroki's about to stab someone in the back? Or am I just going to be like, hey, everyone, I'm going to go stab that person in the back over there, and you're going to help me do it. So yeah, I was very curious about that. And I guess like how much of it is like everyone knows. I guess like once you start playing, everyone like the Dungeon Master, I think you've alluded to, has a lot of powers that we know not. So therefore, like we might not know all the world settings, and we have the kind of opportunity to experience it for the first time. And that's what makes the game kind of fun and interesting and kind of being taken along for that ride. But I guess I'm assuming once the campaign begins, everyone gets the like everyone just sort of knows the world. So if I say I'm about to stab my friend in the back, my friend basically knows immediately. Their character might not know, but the person playing the character is going to be like, what? Like,
yeah, so that's actually a great example for two talking points about D&D that I'll get into briefly before we get back to the world build. So two things about that. One is something called a session zero that's become really popular recently in D&D, and that I'm a huge proponent of. Session zero is where you meet before the game to talk about expectations, goals, do's and don'ts, what you do like, what you don't like. And that's what we're going to be trying to arrange a little 45-minute huddle for all the players before we play, because we haven't played before, and I want everyone to have a chance to meet each other. And that's where I'm going to talk about things like, it's called PvP, player versus player. So can you attack other players? It's a world where you can do everything, but especially because we're doing a show and we're trying to tell a bit of a structured story, and also because I want other players to be comfortable, I might set guidelines like you can run up and stab anyone in the back, but you can't do that to the party, because I don't want the story to get derailed by the party fighting each other. Right. So I'll set expectations around that. If that does come up in the storyline and there's a character, like say a non-player character that you want to run up and stab for a reason, that's when I'll be like, and they might notice, or let's imagine you were attacking another player. I would probably have them roll either an insight or a perception check, which are two skills related to noticing things. Perception's about noticing things just like in the world through the five senses, but insight is about like reading people, reading vibes, reading body language, facial expressions. So someone might insight you and just see that look in your eye of like, oh, she's about to kill. That's the look that I've seen, 10 years ago. I saw a soldier before his mind broke, and I saw that look in his eye, and he was about to become homicidal. And they see that in their high perception check versus you'd probably make a deception check versus their insight. Deception is a skill related with manipulation and lying and falsehood. You'd roll deception, they roll insight. The higher of those two rolls would win, and either they would see what you're about to do coming, and they may have a chance to react first, or they wouldn't. And then we'd go into what's called initiative, which is where you both roll a roll to see how quickly you react and respond. And whoever has the higher number gets to take the first turn in combat. So for them, they might have a chance to hit you first when they see that you're about to strike. And that's how you like have a chance to model those really tense moments of like just before a gunfight breaks out or a standoff happens. Initiative is a great system for seeing like who reacts first and how does that start to lead into how the conflict's going to play out. So there's little rule structures to that, and I'll definitely try to explain how the outcome will work before we roll, so that you have a chance to think like, oh, actually, that's a very high risk maneuver. I didn't realize it'd be so risky. Maybe I don't want to do
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah.
I think that's
So
my biggest insecurity actually with playing like playing live for the very first time in front of everyone is that I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna be like, because the thing is like there's gonna be two versions of me that might show up. The version of me that's either just like I'm just gonna sit here and like very quietly just go along with whatever's happening and only do anything when prompted to do so. Or there's the version of me that's like, okay, I want to have a little bit more fun, want to feel the joy that everyone else is feeling, and be like, I'm going to do this. And then you'll be like, immediately like, no, Maroki, don't do that. Bad player, bad. And I'd probably like that. That's when you're
no, no, no.
I'd be like, put
Yeah,
the banner up at the bottom of the screen, Peter, so I can just like hide behind it in like
I'll
embarrassment.
definitely have the shame banner ready to deploy. But no, like in D&D, what I would do if I thought you were about to do something that either you're not aware of the potential consequences is I would take a moment to be like, just so you know, these are some things that could result from that. Or I might say like, here's the roll you'll be making. That means you have an X% chance of success or failure. Are you sure you still want to do that? And that's usually DM code for you can do this, but it probably won't go well for you. Are you sure? And that's kind of the
Mm,
DM's way of saying like you can proceed this way. You might die, you might lose an item that's important, like something could happen, and then you can still commit, right? Like the player has that freedom to commit to that choice. But it's one of the like sort of non-explicit ways for a DM to just like give a signpost that like that way lies danger. Here there are dragons. And I've seen amazing sessions come from a player acknowledging the signpost and saying, "I'm doing it anyway." Um, so yeah, those are like some of the tools for storytelling and framing how to have those moments. And
mm,
if there's a thing that you just
mm,
straight up can't do, then I'll just tell you like, yeah, there's no role where you'd succeed at that. So that's not really in your character's power. Generally speaking, what you do is you narrate what you want to do. We roll the dice to determine the outcome. I indicate what the level of outcome is, and you can often have freedom to narrate how you succeed or fail. So even if you make a attempt to persuade someone of something, and you roll your persuasion skill, and the roll is low, I might say like you fail, but how does your fumbled pitch come across? And you still have the opportunity to fail the way that you want to, and to own that failure. And the other thing I should say is like failure in D&D is not bad. It may have bad outcomes for the party. The characters may not like it, but as a player, like role playing failure, role playing a bad role can be so much more rewarding and interesting than role playing a successful one. Like any improv, like failing forward, letting the bad thing happen and just seeing where it goes can be a really fun adventure into itself. But I've gone too deep into D&D theory. Let's finish off this event here, and then we'll
okay. I
answer
also like
Vance's question.
yeah. We also had Brian saying, looking forward to plan my midstream wine pairing. It's like, oh man,
Beautiful.
yeah. I guess if we start at 11 a.m. Eastern time and we're planning on playing for a couple of hours, and you can in Ontario you can start serving alcohol at 11 a.m. I could pour a wee glass of wine or something around noontime or something just so I can be irresponsible. Just so I can be irresponsible. That was a Freudian slip there. Just so I can be responsible. Oh my goodness. Maybe it'll help me get into character more.
Well, we shall determine the exact length of the live stream. So if we go late enough, it's like it's always drinking time somewhere. I'm not advocating irresponsible drinking of alcohol. Saying out loud, but all right, hold on. We are going to do one of these two, one of the top or the bottom prompt here, are the ones we're going to choose between. So either there's a catalyst where a experimental new material is created as a result, or no, sorry, experimental new material causes the cataclysm as a catalyst or as a contributing factor, or a fallout where the cataclysm causes a location to be renamed. So vote for location or material.
Do, 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 do,
Hold on.
do,
We don't
do,
have the rights
do,
to it. We don't have the rights to it.
if it's a parody, we technically do not need the rights to it. We'll call this a parody of the moment. A material. Overwhelming votes for material.
Amazing. Okay, so experimental material caused it. And I don't think that's gonna be the husk, so let's build a material. I'm just gonna take a moment because I've realized that the secondary camera here, which is actually just my cell phone, has not been plugged in this whole time. So I'm just gonna plug it in and make sure that it's charging. Otherwise, our camera will die, and that would be very sad.
Ah, technology.
Technology. I think that's why the screen went a little bit darker. Awesome. Okay, it is charging. So, material. We got a material. Let's draw a material type. And yeah, we draw one of these. So it was catalyzed by a experimental new grain, an experimental new gem, experimental new crystal. This is one of the cards that I already have notes about rewriting. Gem and crystal on the same card are not separated enough. And then an experimental new drug. So vote on grain, gem, crystal, drug. And a note on the material cards and just how this ended up happening. So I've mentioned before that when I create card types, I usually create categories that make sure that and the categories help me sort into different types of materials or different types of agents or characters, different types of events, and to make sure that there's a diversity of prompt types on each card. And the way that the materials are divided are usually there's something that can be used as an ingredient or it's edible or food. There is something that can be used for crafting something the size of an object, maybe up to the size of a vehicle. There's something that can be used in construction of a location or building. And then there's something, this is kind of the wild card one, but often it is something that is like a substance that has properties just into and of itself. Not all the time, but often. And always one of these four things needs to be something that could ostensibly be produced by a creature. So there's like a variety of things that need these. So it's kind of like a checklist of 5 things that need to be true about the 4 prompts. So crystal was my building making material here. Crystal is something big enough. You didn't really you may not make something out of gems. Gems tend to be small, but crystal, you could imagine like a palace made of crystal, and that's how the two
Yeah, and
things.
we have 2 votes for it.
We got 2 votes for crystal, 1 for grain. All right, let's go with crystal.
Oh, Brian's grain vote came in too late, Brian.
Wait, oh, and another crystal.
Oh, and Adam immediately coming back in with crystal.
And I'm going to immediately pull that one out and do that. So I think what we're going to do, I'm going to move us over to the other side of the screen again, just so that we're not covering the prompt. And then I think we'll take a little short break, maybe like a 3-minute break. I'll play the pitch video for the Lore Masters deck. So we have a sec too. I can clear the board and start a new board, and you and I can grab water Maroki and we'll come back. But we'll finish up this crystal first.
All right, so everyone, go grab some water. Go grab some.
Not yet. In 2 minutes because we're gonna finish the crystal first.
Okay, yes, in 2 minutes when the pitch video plays, you will have officially 3 minutes and I think 14 seconds to refresh your coffee, grab yourself chocolate like me, and come back to the table to continue building out our prompts. Okay, let's finish out this one first.
All right, so our crystal is pliable. Ooh, that's the opposite of crystal, and I love it. It makes me so confused. Coarse, climactic, radiating, repentant, crafty, impressive, or artisanal. So go ahead.
Like how Mayonaka is saying that's their cue to go. It's late-ish here. It's only late-ish. This is Maroki the Night Owl encouraging everyone to join like me in my Night Owl escapades where I sleep very, very late at night, as in my perfect circadian rhythm. I don't what is it, animal chronotypes, where they say like you can be a lion, a bear, a wolf, or a dolphin. And I'm 10,000% a wolf. My perfect circadian rhythm is sleeping at 3 a.m. in the morning. So but I don't want to ruin your beauty sleep. So obviously, if you got to go, you got to go. And I really appreciate you taking the time to stay up late to join us for sure.
And thank you.
Let's see. 2 radiations
3
right now.
Radiations. I think
3 radiations.
have it. All right. Radiating crystal. Radiating crystals are really cool too, because that can be like physical structure, that can be like radioactive, that can be radiant in terms of light. Like there's a lot of ways that we can use that.
It's true.
Cool. Okay. So let's give this material some more properties. Material is linked to a faction's devastating secret, which we have a faction with a secret already. So that's interesting. A background where this crystal was used to decorate a location. A trait where the crystal has psionic properties. And then a trait where the crystal has living or mechanized properties. I like all of these. This might end
See,
up
the
being
psionic properties is interesting because if it's a radiating crystal, maybe the radiation is like psionic, and there's like some sort
yeah,
of intertwining quality there.
yeah. This is a grand slam. Like all 4 bases are loaded on, or all 3 bases are loaded, and then you're gonna get home plate on this one. Yeah.
Well, let's see what people are going to lean towards. And thank you, Maureen, and everyone who's and Manaka understanding your kitten's demanding supper. So
Yeah.
totally get that.
We get it.
Our animal companion overlords.
All right. We got to vote for psionic. Psionic.
Aha! I have successfully sold the pitch.
No, I think we're definitely going psionic. I'm gonna hold out to see if we end up with a splay or a corner tuck here. No, we're full votes for psionic. Let's do it. All right. Let's pull another material card. All right, is our crystal here exclusively harvestable from one location? Does it have a background where it's used in a particular dish, cooking with crystals? A trait where it imparts the qualities of a creature. This one was interesting. Imparts the qualities of a creature I've taken to mean either like, so if we're looking to say the dragonflies, that it might like help you grow wings, or it might make you like twitchy like a dragonfly. That's one of the ones that I like because it's very solve the problem yourself. Like, what does that mean? And I found all the connections I've made with it so far while playtesting very surprising. A trait where it's very useful for writing or carving would be very interesting. So yeah, go ahead and vote for location, dish, creature, or writing, carving.
I have my own bias, but I'm going to try my best not to sell people on the votes this time.
No. The point is discussion. Like let's weigh our thumbs upon the scales of democracy. Tell me what you're thinking.
I mean, democracy is nothing else but an opportunity for all the candidates to kind of convince their point of view, right?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about the dish. I guess if you're gonna twist my arm and have me spill what my opinion is, the idea of a dish because it has radiating psionic properties, and either of those psionic properties when cooked, when you take the crystal and cook in a dish, it's like, does that mean you're gonna impart some like really kind of supernatural or like superhuman ability on whoever's consuming the dish, or it's actually dangerous, so they're consuming it, but it might be only good in like small quantities and they might die if they eat too much of it?
Yeah. I like it. So let's definitely use it in a particular dish. So let's do a corner tuck.
There's 2 votes, but yeah, there's 2 votes for writing and carving, so I don't want to
and it's
take
opposite.
away from that too.
We can't corner tuck it with useful for writing carving. We can corner tuck it if we get a vote for another one of the things, which we do for imparts the qualities of a creature. So let's go ahead and corner tuck that then. And we'll do used in a particular dish and imparts the qualities of a creature.
Sorry, Sharon Vance, I have overridden you with my demands.
And let's create a new. We're just going to pull one creature for now. We're not necessarily going to. We're not necessarily going to pull it out yet. We'll probably dig into this on the next pull. But is the creature that it imparts the qualities of a snake, a frog, plankton, or a dragon? This is another card that appeared during the main pitch video, which you'll see in a minute. Dragon comes up as a cue. Tara feels betrayed.
It's because of that pun. It's because of that pun you gave me the other day, Tara. It's because of that pun. I'm gonna have like this established reputation where it's like Maroki, the I don't know, pun exterminator or the anti-punster, just something. I don't actually dislike them that much, guys, but I this is a joke that I've just decided to lean heavily into.
Well,
And maybe it's because for the last couple of weeks I was with Eric and his family, and between him and his dad, they definitely have been burying me in puns like the entire time.
why? All right, special treat. If you're still around when we come back from the break after we pick this card, I'm going to read the puns that I submitted because Maroki asked me to write some puns about lore for a poll for the project update, and I sent her more than she used. So I sent her some that are inappropriate for publication. If you stick around until after the break, I will read you the ones that she cut. There's some stinkers from a like joke perspective, and then there's like at least one that's like a little bit inappropriate. And, like, it's delightful. All right, we got a vote for snake and a vote for plankton. Let's see if we get any
The
more.
living fries of the ocean.
Oh, love it. Yeah. Love it.
I can't. Oh my god. The funniest thing I've heard all day. I'm like seeing like really bad commercials like under the sea, like being advertised to whales or something. Check out our newest plankton, the fries of the ocean, the living fries of the ocean, freshly alive.
I think we might. So I think we got a tie here between snake and plankton. I'm gonna go with plankton because it's made you laugh so hard,
God,
and I got to figure out something that I can do with that.
Die, Brian.
All right, plankton qualities.
This is probably the best time to make sure that I get off the screen so I can recover from this.
Okay, we're gonna give Maroki some time to process plankton as fries of the ocean. We're gonna take a 3-minute and 13-second break. We're gonna play the pitch video. We will be right back. I'm gonna see if I can very, very quickly do a little scene change here, lay out a new playmat, and we'll do a new prompt. But here we go. Just give me a second to get this going. We are gonna play a little video file for you. I'm gonna find that. Okay.
Magic tech juice.
Spend less time worrying about what to create.
We'll be back in
and
3
more
minutes
time
and 30
coming up
seconds.
with rich, immersive lore for your world and stories. Hi, I'm Peter Czachowski, creator of the Story Engine deck in Deck of Worlds, and I'm here to tell you about a new standalone deck that I've created to help writers, world builders, game masters, and artists come up with original, interconnected lore for their settings. With Lore Masters deck, you can start with a single element of lore and weave it into an intricate web of factions, figures, events, locations, objects, materials, creatures, and more. For example, you might start with a single faction, a guild. They are keepers of prophecies and predictions, and they're headquartered in a sanctum. They have a private library and an eccentric leader. But who's this leader? They're a wayfinder, a tragic wayfinder. Perhaps they learned to read the stars to navigate not just the world, but the future. They travel with a pet, a bear. They love music, and they're trying to cause an apocalyptic event. But what kind of event? A volatile tempest, a storm of fear and profiteering that leads to the abandonment of a metropolis of moving buildings that has already been the epicenter of a calamity, and where in its shifting depths is hidden a key, the key to the apocalypse, created by an ancient temple priesthood and covered in runes carved into crystal, a mesmerizing chromatic material used as a battery for divination magic. It can only be harvested from a dragon, a species of living gemstone dragon with no eyes and a taste for sentient prey. Dragons that are hunted by the Guild of Prophecy Keepers that we started our prompt with. Every card you add offers opportunities to further expand your web, and the entire process of constructing it is fast, fun, intuitive, remixable, and completely driven by you and your creative choices. Lore Master's deck is the biggest deck system that we have created to date, with more queues than the Story Engine and Deck of Worlds combined. It is a completely standalone product that you do not need anything else to be able to use and enjoy, but if you're an existing fan of the Story Engine deck or Deck of Worlds, you can add some of those cards to your lore prompts to expand the number of potential combinations exponentially. And we are releasing a limited number of focused expansions for adding new elements to your lore and world building. A set of deity cards for introducing gods, spirits, and supernatural entities. A set of emblem cards for introducing sigils, runes, iconography, and symbols to your setting. A set of namesake cards for giving unique and evocative nicknames to your factions, figures, events, locations, objects, materials, creatures, and deities. A set of bridging cards that create connections between Lore Master's deck and the Story Engine deck, and Lore Master's deck and Deck of Worlds. Plus, we have a line of add-ons that include some new collectibles and fan favorites that we are bringing back by popular demand. You can check out the add-on sections to find our collectible pins, sleeves, storage boxes, and more. Thank you for taking a look at Lore Master's deck with me, and I hope you will consider pledging the campaign. If you have any questions about the deck or about the Story Engine as a whole, you can find me in the comments, and I'm happy to discuss with you how our deck can help support your creative process and the lore that you're building. Thank you so much.
And we're back.
And I just ate my last pecan.
All right, fresh board. Let's lay out some more lore.
I will totally dig that you flipped the playmat from Build Your World to Tell Your Story. That is some very high quality product placement switcheroos right there.
Why, thank you very much. What was I going to say? I managed to, my wife has a giant oversized clipboard. She does a lot of sewing and garment construction stuff, and it just helps to have a big flat surface that you can do larger sketches on. So I stole that and managed to slip the entire thing on it without spilling any of the cards or prompts, so I can actually go back and look at it later, which I'm very, very happy about.
Nice. It's actually much better, and I'm very envious that she has a garment construction board table, especially given that I remember when I used to do costume design, I definitely did a lot of constructing and cutting on just the carpet on the floor. And there might have been many times where I stuck pins and pinned my patterns to the carpet on the floor and couldn't extract it.
She has also done that before, but we have a bunch of these little foam tile things from Muji that you can combine to create custom shape for pinning. So she does a lot of that for garment stuff too. Vance, so sorry, before I'll take to your question before the break, and I apologize. So we are not doing genre expansions for the Lore Masters deck. There are a number of horror and more science fiction-y prompts in the main deck. But what I found with Lore Masters deck was it does work for multiple genres. It works best for fantasy, but if you go in with a horror lens or you go in with a sci-fi lens, you will find that material is there and it's rich. And I was experimenting with pulling cards out and reserving them for genre expansions, and I just found that it wasn't adding the value the way that it did with Deck of Worlds and Story Engine. And I'm very mindful of I don't like to do expansions that I don't think add enough value. And Maroki had, when we were talking about the vision for the Lore Masters deck, she really pushed the idea that I got very into, that let's make the main deck something that is very contained, that does do multiple genres, that feels like when you're getting it, you're not missing the fantasy or missing the horror, you're missing science fiction, that we have those things that are sort of encapsulated in the main run of prompts. That, I became very convinced by that idea too. So we decided not to pull those out separately this time. But specific functions of world building and lore building that we could cover in the main deck, but that would be really interesting to have dedicated expansions for, is what we ended up doing with the namesakes, the emblems, and the deities, as well as the bridges. It's a good question. Alrighty, Maroki, how would you feel about doing another figure draw, starting with another figure draw? We'll draw 2 cards and see if any of the 8 cues appeal to you, and if we have something that could be an anchor for your character. They could be in the siblinghood. We could tie it to the faction any which way. We can do manual overrides to connect them to anything from the last prompt that we like. But how would you feel about starting with a figure and just seeing if there's any character inspiration there?
We can start with a figure. I know there's a part of me that's been feeling more and more resonant with the siblinghood, and wondering if there's a character that I'm just going to create that's maybe not created here, that will exist in the campaign, and maybe that'll end up being my character. That's just something around the siblinghood. But we can still start with a figure because who knows? Maybe I'll override that,
Yeah.
or at least maybe offer another character opportunity for. Did Alina specify anything that they wanted for
No, they've
their
not shared their character
character?
concept yet. So it could be a pitch for Alina. It also could be like I have no NPCs as of right now, because the only figure we've created is I think going to be some neat flavor for Jordan's character. So if nothing else, having some NPCs is really really helpful for me as a DM. So yeah, let's
Do
start with the figure.
DMs do DMs play characters at all, or is it very much like master, overlord,
S-
godlike,
so the DM basically plays
omniscient?
all the characters that aren't played by the players are played by the DM. So they'll often
Mm.
do like different. Sometimes some DMs do different voices to indicate that a certain character is speaking. Some of them will just say this person says. So they are playing everyone else, and then because the structure of like an adventuring party is such that you have these characters that form bonds, and the DM might feel like they're missing out on having that thing. Some DMs have what's called a DMPC, which is a dungeon master player character, where there's like an NPC who's always part of the party and who is treated a bit more like a regular character, and they have a way of inserting. DMPCs I've seen done very well, and I've seen them done very poorly. There are some cases where like the DM, because they're also the arbiter of how the rules work, suddenly their PC is like the most attractive and the fastest and the smartest. And and like there have been DMPCs where like, oh, you've just created a character who is the hot shit that you think you are is the character that you created. And it gets very like imagine suddenly there's a hero named like Keter Pikowski. And he's like me, but he's like 4 inches taller and big muscles. There's
That's
that
called Gary Stew.
Gary Stu. Tell me about Gary Stu.
Well, do you know Mary Sue characters, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So
Gary Stew was
Got
the
it.
male version of the
Got
Mary
it.
Sue character, the Gary Stew.
I love
The
it.
like OP god character that's always just like, yeah, like the hottest, the fastest, the
Yep.
smartest, or even the angstiest, right? There's always like, I am angst, and it's like I'm flawed, but my flaw just makes me somehow more perfect.
Yeah.
You know, my one scar that makes me so hideous, but the women still throw themselves at my feet.
Don't look at me. Are you looking? Are you looking? Don't look at me. Yeah.
I still remember someone wrote, there used to be this person who wrote like it was called like 15-minute summaries of movies or whatever, and they would parody a lot of like how the movie is being depicted of a certain character. And I think for Phantom of the Opera, it was like Gerard Butler, and when they finally removed the mask, I think they screamed like the characters were screaming like, "Oh my god, he's slightly unattractive on one side of his face, 2 arms." It was just like when they removed the mask, and I was like, "Yes." like that kind of thing. So yeah. Anyways, we're digressing a little bit. We happy to go with starting with a figures character. I'm wondering if after this live stream, it'd probably be smart if one of us, probably you, and I say one of us, I mean mostly Peter, to like summarize the lore script, perhaps to share with the folks, or maybe it's just something you hold for yourself, and then we can and promise to show everyone again on Wednesday so that it's not just spread out for the world to see. Because I know we don't want to spoil Jasmine, Alina, and Jordan too much.
Yeah, so the plan is I'm gonna publish I'm gonna send to the players, and I'll probably publish somewhere, maybe in the updates, a like setting and story synopsis, which is what everyone knows. All of you as players will know this. All your characters will know this. And it also will be some inspiration for how, like, if Alina wants to come up with their character inspired by an element of the world, it'll give them some things to work with. And I'll make that available so everyone can see it. And I'll probably publish a picture of the prompt and nothing else, because like only some secrets are visible from looking at it. The rest is, in the discussions that we've had together about what the cards mean. So I think that will be great, and I'll definitely make that available. And also, I'm very excited to report that Raven is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. They're just getting camera ready, so stand by for that. We'll get to do. We'll bring Raven in and do some extra choices here. But let's start by creating a character. Is this character a capitalist, a priest, an innovator, or an armorer?
Kind of dig the like very I am almost immediately evil capitalist element, or maybe not.
I always
I'm sure a lot of us are of similar mindsets when we hear the word capitalist. I am a business person through and through, and I definitely do try and stay a little bit politically neutral around the terminology capitalist. But I acknowledge that when we think about capitalism and a capitalist, that they're probably a person that has no qualms sort of ruining things all around them to get what they want. There's definitely villain vibes in there.
Yeah.
But we have a vote from Adam for innovator, which is most certainly, I think, so far, at least my initial bias towards the term innovator is a little bit more positive. But there's definitely innovators out there that I think could be quite evil. Apparently, I'm just stuck on creating evil characters right now. And a priest from Terra.
Innovator, priest. We got 2 for priest. That might clinch it. But we'll see. Let's count down 3, 2, 1. Priest.
And another priest.
Another priest. This time a vote from Facebook. All right. Let's go ahead with priest. And we're starting a new one, so we don't need to draw a wild card. So we'll just draw some cues here.
I like how Vance is like upvoting Terra.
we meddled with democracy, and the people are rising up, and I think that's completely fair. Awesome. All right, so this figure, they have a background where they turned the tide in a major battle, an agenda where they're trying to make friends with a particular figure, a trait where they get tired easily, or a trait where they are anti-authoritarian. Go ahead and vote for battle, friends, tires,
I think there's
or
an ice cream truck outside. I don't know if anyone else can hear it. Does anyone else hear like the happy child music? Oh, here comes the ice cream truck. The interesting thing about a anti-authoritarian is that a lot of priests, if we kind of look at it from real life perspectives, and they follow the Catholic Church, it's like they usually tend to follow or uphold authority. So being anti-authoritarian can change. Like all these people are like, I can hear the ice cream truck. Sleepy preacher. I mean, the sleepy preacher thing is funny because it's like if people go into confession, the priest's actually just sleeping on the other side.
Knocked off. Yeah.
Vance is asking if there's a public Discord server for the story engine. While you're counting up the votes, Peter, Vance, yes, actually, there is a public Discord for the story engine that I don't know if Keith is still with us, but Keith actually is one of the moderators, I believe, on it. If nothing else, Keith is moderating, if not a very prominent member of the collective creators collective group. So there is a third-party Facebook group that is incredible, an incredible community of people called the Story Engine Creative Collective, I'd like to say. I'm going to make sure I say the name correctly. Story Engine Deck Creative Collective, which is a group of creators who kind of come together to discuss the deck and all the things and all the cool things and just like their ideas with each other. And they actually created a Discord. And given that Peter and I probably are already doing far too many things and are afraid that if we do too many more things, we'll start doing them poorly, we were like, why mess with a good thing? Because they had they had a really lovely Discord that they had set up already with a great community. Running upstairs to work on a batch of bread. I want some bread, Keith. That's awesome. And so they got it going. And so if being a part of a Discord community is where you want to go, we are pointing everyone in that direction, which Eric very kindly just shared the link there on YouTube. So yeah, Vance, join that community. It's great. It's lots of fun. It's lots of fun.
Awesome. We would love to hang out with you there. In the meantime, the Creative Collective is, I think, both the name of the Discord and the Facebook page. But yeah, there's also the Facebook page, the Story Engine Creative Collective, where people hang out. Okay, so this figure, do they have a background where they have a notable family estate? Do they have an agenda where they're trying to expose corruption within a faction? Do they have a trait where they are smart or conniving? or do they have a trait where they are a poor or an excellent judge of character? This one came up in our launch day prompts. We had that bouncer who's seems to be a poor judge of character, but is actually an excellent judge of character. And then the bouncer
Oh yes,
for the gates of death.
yes, yes, yes. What did we end up picking for the first trait? I actually totally...
one more vote came in for anti-authoritarian, and
Okay.
I personally really like the idea of like a rebel priest who's within an organized religion but is pushing back against it. So I think that's a fun idea, and I decided to go with it.
I feel like a good tie into that would be the idea of like they're trying to kind of expose corruption.
Yeah, within their own faction, that actually fits beautifully. Well, our first vote is for Tara for expose, judge of character.
Are those two adjacent from each other, or
Expose is not adjacent; it's opposite to the judge of character. But we got 2 for expose, 3 for expose. So I think we got enough votes to do expose, and we can make another faction, or we can tie this to the existing faction. But I like having at least 2 factions. Gives a nice balance, counterbalance. So let's draw a faction right now. Interesting choices here. Expose corruption within a charity, within a fleet, within a federation, or within a committee. Any thoughts
charities
here,
are
Maroki?
always great. Charities are always great because they're like that, you know, the idea of philanthropy, but it's like totally not. And I feel like that's a very specific lore trope that I almost always get behind.
Well, the first vote is coming for charity. So
I think the ice cream truck is coming for me again.
That's 3. That's 3 for charity. I think we've locked in charity. Amazing.
If for people, that music ended very abruptly. For people who are wondering why I'm getting it really, really excited, is that I grew up in a rural neighborhood. There was no ice cream trucks that ever passed the neighborhood I grew up in ever. The closest I ever heard an ice cream truck was when I was taking piano lessons at my piano teacher's house. So the fact that I now am sitting in a neighborhood that has an ice cream truck going through it is like very exciting for me. I know that's like such like a strange like piece of nostalgia for me.
See, for me, I always think of the there's a little bit of Southern Ontario real world lore, but there was a knife sharpening truck that it had the same bells that an ice cream truck does. That as far as Ottawa and possibly farther, it would get kids to come running. They come running because they hear the bells of an ice cream truck, and they get there, and it's someone who just sharpens knives and tools. But to me, it sounds like the beginnings of a horror story, like the man with the jingle jangle bells who drives through neighborhoods to attract all the children. When they get there, it's not ice cream; it's like a truck full of knives. Like there's some real urban legend horror stuff going on there. Anyway, that is a bit of real world lore that I've gotten very distracted with. Let's come up with another little trait here. Do they have a background where their emblem depicts a creature? This is the priest we're talking about here. An agenda where they're trying to assassinate an enemy or a rival. A trait where they are empathic or telepathic. A trait where they are graceful or dexterous.
I'm not sure. There's a couple there that are interesting to me. I'm also reminding myself to sort of think about this figure in the context of the previous, like that kind of like that just be like this is that lack of visual. It's like, right, there's a whole lore that we've already established and we're actually continuing to build on that in some way. And there's a part of me that wants to make sure it fits into that world as well. But actually, all the votes that are coming in about telepathy was the one I think interested in.
Yeah, awesome. Telepathic priest, let's do it. Because telepathy, for someone who's exposing corruption, very helpful tool to have. And also their rebellion may come from, a heightened empathy of like caring about the way that this charity that they're a part of affects people. So I like that one a lot. And then let's do one more. Where are my figure cards? There we go. Okay. Their last sort of detail here. They have a background where they have a family fortune from manufacturing a certain type of object. Do they have an agenda where they're trying to uncover the origins of a catastrophe? Do they have a trait where they have a phobia of a specific creature? Or do they have a trait where they're a music lover? Give me votes for family fortune, for origins, for phobia, or for music. Keith says, helpful. I've read enough horror stories to know that seeing into someone's mind directly could be terrible. I'd agree with that. Hold on. It looks like my secondary camera here has oriented itself wrong. Oh, no, it's died. That's why it's frozen.
Oh,
All right. So give me a moment here. I'm going to charge this phone and switch out to my my old backup phone. And
technology continues.
Technology continues.
Phobia of dragonflies. The interesting thing about phobia of dragonflies is that there's definitely a tie back somewhere in there, especially if they're priests too. Because since the dragonflies are undead, there's like almost an extra layer of phobia in there. Because I would assume that priests would find undead creatures rather unholy.
Yeah.
And so a phobia of those particular dragonflies would make sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of phobia of dragonflies. All right, hold on. So we have. Would you mind tallying the votes while I fiddle with the phone here and get myself on the live stream?
Yeah.
Do a count up for us.
We have. I think we actually have a pretty big vote for the dragonflies. One for music, which I actually thought was like a sweet, lovely thing to add. That was not so like constantly leading to yet more challenges and disaster. For now, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe something as innocuous as loving a certain type of music is bad. I mean, actually, real world story, right? Communist China, Mao Zedong's China was like that. If you loved a certain type of Western music, you were punished for it. And they, during the big revolution, they did burn all Western instruments like violins, and they burned music. And essentially all you could listen to was, you know, Chinese music in its purest way. So sometimes something as innocuous as liking something can yield consequences for you. But I think the phobia of dragonflies is the way to go.
Okay.
I'm gonna judge the old cell phone for a moment. I'm like, old cell phone, you clearly do not have the qualities of new cell phone.
Cell phone, yeah. It's doing its best. It's doing its best. Awesome.
I shouldn't insult the cell phone. The cell phone might shut off just to piss me off.
I can see Raven is in the green room. Raven, can you give me a wave or a thumbs up if you're all good to join us? Awesome. Here we go. Please welcome Raven John. I'm going to add you.
I don't know. I'm saying choo choo as I'm like doing a drum roll. I apparently don't know how to. My sound effects with my visual effects are not lining up.
It's just a mixture of, you know, Katamari and taiko drumming and rolling up all of those trains and items.
I dig it.
How's it going?
Hello.
It's good. So Maroki, meet Raven. Raven, meet Maroki. Maroki's come on board the Story Engine as the CEO. She's going to be running the company, and she's project managing the Lore Masters deck. She's been a collaborator of mine for years. And then Raven and I started role playing together on Trash Heroes about half a year ago.
Oh my God! Wow, it's been that long.
I'm very bad at time. I have significant time blindness. But that's I want to guess that, but I actually I can't remember the specific date you joined. Yeah, around the holidays. But can you introduce yourself? Tell us about your work and your art, and then we'll bring you in to help us with the prompt here.
Yeah, I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I mainly really am in love with sculpture, and one of the ways that that gets incorporated is through prop making in theater and film, which is something I do. But I also am part of and a co-founder of Digital Cauldron Collective, which is a VR, XR focused artist collective where we are about bringing VR into and theater and bringing them together in an equitable way that focuses on like minority representations, mostly feminine presenting experiences in those spaces.
Right on.
Yes, so I do a lot of different stuff.
And where can people find your work?
Ravenjohn.com is my website, and on most platforms, Twitch and Instagram, I'm Two Spirit Trickster.
Well, I think you're going to love the prompt that we're working on right now. To give you a bit of context, we did a bit of world building, and we did a full board worth of world building where we created, we started off with what was the prompt that we picked? Basically, we have a character who's kind of a creepy necromancer, who's obsessed with these undead dragonflies. The undead dragonflies were sort of created by a siblinghood that this person really wants to join. They're trying to gain entry into it. And they're tied to an incoming catastrophe that could involve them in death and a glacier where these dragonflies have like moved to survive a former sort of extinction crisis that the siblinghood has been credited with solving, but that they only recently found out they actually didn't solve. Something else solved that and helped these dragonflies survive as undead. And we cleared that board and put that aside. So we're still building in that world with those pieces. And since then, we've created a new character who I think you're really going to like. They're a priest, but they're anti-authoritarian. They're trying to expose corruption within the organization they participate in, which is a charity. They're empathic and telepathic, and they have a phobia of the dragonflies. They're afraid of them. So that ties in so far. We've just finished making them, and I think we're going to learn about the charity. So I'm going to pull out the charity prompt. And then for this next round, Raven, this is all you. I'm going to show you some cues. You're going to tell me which ones you want to go with as we apply some different like traits, backgrounds, things like that to find out more about this charity. So can you pick for me? We're drawing a wild card here. This is just an initial detail to establish the charity. You can pick any of these 8 words. The charity can be flamboyant, opportunistic, mellow, deep, drab, diaphanous, gracious, or bellowing.
Ooh, I'm excited. I don't know what diaphanous means.
Diaphanous is, I've mostly heard it described, used to describe fabrics, or textiles. So a diaphanous fabric is like shimmery and soft and somewhat translucent, almost otherworldly. That is the way that I would describe it. But I'm gonna do a really quick, just to make sure. Let's make sure that Peter's not talking out of his butthole.
So for this charity, is it the one that they are in, or the one that they're infiltrating?
We haven't quite determined the relationship to the charity. I think because they're a priest, I've been associating them with it in some way. They're attached to it in some way, whether like maybe their religious organization's tied to it, or maybe the religious organization is a charity. We can decide that, and you can give pitches for what you want that to mean. But diaphanous is especially a fabric, light, delicate, and translucent.
I kind of like opportunistic and diaphanous. Like if they are anti-establishment infiltrators, then those the organization they work with or setting that they work within doing that could be both of those things. So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I gotta make you pick one of those. They're both
okay.
They're both good.
They're on the other side. Yeah.
We can put one down, and you can still carry forward the cues you don't use. You can still like keep those in mind and apply them to the thing. But we gotta pick one for the structure anyway of the prompt.
I like opportunistic.
Opportunistic, beautiful. Okay, so we've got an opportunistic charity that they're trying to expose corruption within, and that makes sense. That would make sense if they're acting with opportunism. The charity is. Then that would lead to making decisions of compromise. It could lead to moral corruption. So I like it. All right, now we're going to pick some prompts that are specific to factions to describe more about this faction. And the way this works is you get to pick between these 4. Anytime there's an icon, it means that we're going to draw another card to fill in more details about this cue. So they give a background where the charity ousted a former leader, and we'll draw a figure card to figure out who the leader was. An agenda where they want to help those left behind by an institution, by another faction. a trait where they've got very good outreach programs, or a trait where they're highly corrupted or corruptible, which is a little on the nose. Anything speaking to you there?
I think there's a lot of meat of story available if we go with the ousted, but a former leader.
I like it too. I think there's definitely some material there. Brilliant. Okay, and we'll draw that leader card now. So is the leader that was ousted an apostate, a researcher, a map maker, or an innkeeper?
I like map maker.
I like map maker too, and maps hold a lot of power because when you make a map, you decide something about the world and how it's going to be represented and what features of it you're going to represent, and that there's a lot of power that comes with that. And like in our real world, the number of parallels between charities, how they talk about the work they do, and then how the global north and south are mapped and represented on maps. Lots of real world ties. Lots of real world ties about how those things interact. So we could pull some real world inspiration. All right, let's find some more out about our charity here. Raven, background where this charity caused the notable death. An agenda where they're trying to orchestrate a specific event. A trait where they're very supported by the community, or a trait where they are unparalleled masters of a specific discipline. You get to pick the discipline there.
And this is
the charity.
The charity. Is this in relation to the Dragonfly thing, or
we can make any? We could decide that the event connects to the Dragonfly extinction, or to the coming Cataclysm. There's a coming Cataclysm that I can't talk too much about because it's going to become a major plot point, and I want to keep some secrets.
Okay.
So we could tie it back to that. Yeah, you can basically connect these to any of the contexts that we discussed so far, or we can create a new event by pulling a new event card.
I kind of like cause the notable death.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to tuck that on this side, and I'm going to move, I think, both these cues over to scooch a bit of room. All right.
I like how this format also lends to, like, helping yourself build, like, such a visual narrative and connection. Just because, like, all of these story elements are so exciting, and then when you try and talk about them, or even having them written down, you're like, oh, wait, and then you're like, which character did that connect to? But you can like just have it so succinctly in front of you.
Yeah, for me, I was trying with this to capture that like galaxy brain lore is exploding in your head, and you're trying to get the connections down as quick as you can. And this like gives it enough of a pace and enough of visualization that you can sort of still see how things are connected. And we can connect parts of elements that are far apart from each other by putting down little tokens and making little breadcrumb trails that connect different prompts, which is lovely. Okay, so we've got one more faction prompt to pull here, and then we'll do the next round with we'll do chat vote for the next round, but we commentate on our favorites and we try and sway the vote. Oh,
of course, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so is there a background this faction has where their emblem depicts a creature? Is there an agenda where they're trying to provide shelter or food? Is there a trait where they are close allies of another faction? Or is there a trait where they have a very positive reputation?
I think positive reputation works, especially for someone who's a faction with the trait of opportunistic.
Yeah.
Because you can easily sway and change your values or mandate.
Yeah, to basically to try and stay in the good graces of that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Okay, so that completes our charity, and now we're going to find out about the leader here. Sorry, they caused a death, which we forgot to pull a card to explore that further. So, who died? Let's just quickly find that out. Let's do a chat vote for this one. So, did they cause the notable death of a child? Oh, that's some bad PR. That would be hard to keep a positive reputation, which would be really interesting. Because they caused a notable death. That doesn't mean that it's known that they were the ones who caused it. The death was known. The death is known about. But what if it's a situation where but no one actually knows what caused that death and they were behind it? the death of a pilot, the death of an administrator, which would be really if there's corruption within and like an administrator was figuring it out, they killed on their own, or an adept, someone who's learning. So vote in the chat for child, pilot, administrator, or adept. Infanticide, not something I anticipated on this stream, but here we are.
Hey, stuff happens, okay?
Stuff happens, especially in D&D.
Oh, Vance is saying, what if the child was part of a terrible prophecy?
Oh, that's yeah. That is like kill one child, save the world.
Cataclysm.
Really,
There's some cataclysm stuff in there. Some
Yeah.
ties into those cataclysms.
yeah.
Or-
I
I was-
one vote for child.
I was thinking a lot more mundanely. like if they caused the death of a child, was it that they didn't have insurance? They didn't have a proper inspection when they built their temples?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
they didn't put up the floor is slippery sign.
What a
I don't know
way
why I don't know why. Like I'm just thinking like institutions, okay?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
what ways have they caused harm?
Yeah, and their
Yeah.
first priority is to cover their butts, and yeah,
Mm.
interesting. All right, well, I want to know more about the map maker, so I'm going to pull that out, and we'll split this up. We'll do first queue goes to Maroki, second queue goes to Raven, and then last queues go to the chat. Maroki, pick. Oh, this is going to be the wild card that you're picking. Is this map maker stunning, geometric, open-minded, nepotistic, conductive, cryptic, epic, or off-putting? Keep in mind, this is the ousted leader.
Mm.
The ousted leader. See, if you do something like nepotistic, and if they are map maker, and we talk about like the politics of map making in a charity, it's almost like you are probably as corrupt of a map maker as you could be if you not only have ties where you're developing a map of the world based on the ties you have, but not only that, but because of your personal ties with individuals in your life.
Yeah.
Right? If you're literally redesigning the map to benefit like a sibling of yours or something, or a family member of yours.
Yeah. And what if their crime, the reason they got ousted was because they got caught, not because they did something wrong. It was because they got caught. And then the charity's like, oh, we gotta disavow this person. Not again. We all knew they were doing it, but now we have to say we had no idea and we're shocked. And of course,
yeah. Or maybe there's corruption within the charity. Like it could be between there's corruption between different leaders or different siblings within the charity, and maybe one helped one and didn't help the other enough or something.
Yeah. We have a lot of options for reading that. I like nepotistic. Let's lock it in. And let's give some traits here, which will go to Raven. This figure can have a background where they were the sole survivor of a specific tragedy. An agenda where they're trying to heist an object. A trait where they own stockpiles of a material. Or a trait where they keep a pristine appearance. If you like two that are next to each other, we can do what's called a corner tuck, where we tuck it and then both of the cues are visible and we just claim both, but they have to be adjacent cues for that to work. Soul Survivor.
I really like that. The Soul Survivor and Heist Object would be really fun.
Yeah.
Because that could be the same event.
Yes.
That got them ousted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, let's do a corner tuck. Let's throw both of those down. And then chat, you're going to vote on these next two as we fill out those corners for what the event was. So first, let's do the object that they are trying to heist. Are they trying to heist a gun, a drum, a sheath, or a vehicle? A vehicle heist is really interesting because that is your getaway, right? your getaway is the thing that you're trying to steal, and I think that's a really interesting concept. Gun, gun is one of those things where I'm like, I want to know more. I want to know why one gun is so important. So we could definitely pull it out and explore it in more detail. Drum would be really, really interesting too. I always find instruments make for really fun artifacts because the way that music is very powerful, and you can turn that metaphor powerful into the metaphor of like the power of music into like a literal power is fun. And then sheath is interesting because it any other weapon can be imbued by powers from a sheath, so you can have it mean a lot of different things, or it can imbue a lot of different properties. So we have votes coming in momentarily for gun, drum, sheath, or vehicle.
I feel like I missed this talk about pudding because there's a lot of discussing about pudding and pudding skin, and I'm like, I missed something somewhere in this conversation.
Oh, off-putting was one of the cues. Like, so that person's really they don't come across well. They're off-putting.
Oh god, I was protected.
Yeah. So oh right, I promised to read the puns. We'll do that in a minute. Moroki hates puns, Raven, and you've heard me playing Copernicus Sunshine on Trash Heroes. It's in 35 minutes, by the way. Raven and I will be playing on live stream Trash Heroes at twitch.tv/weargeek. I make a lot of puns as my character, Copernicus Sunshine. Raven plays Morgan the Satyr, who is a streaming sensation. I make a lot of puns, and I promised to read some puns that got cut from a poll we did on which pun was the worst pun, because I wrote some puns for Moroki to horrify her on demand for one of our project updates. Okay, so we've got sheath and sheath and sheath. We got sheath. It's all sheath, baby. All right. Sheathing up. We'll do the tragedy, and then we'll take a little break to read some horrible puns. All right, it's pull 2 cards. So we have 8 options here that you can vote between.
Ooh.
Soul Survivor was their tragedy. Was it of a succession, of a harvest, of a crash, of an explosion, of a toppling, of a wedding? That's very Red Wedding vibes. Of a tempest, or of a birth. The birth one's especially weird. I don't know what to do with that one. Yeah, those are options: succession, harvest, crash, explosion, toppling, wedding, tempest, birth. And while you're voting, Mr. Panther 54, thank you so much for backing. Really, really appreciate it. And also thank you for picking up the previous decks. I'm really proud of this little creative system, and I really hope it brings you a lot of creativity and joy.
I really like Harvest. I think Harvest is. I don't know why. I love thinking very mundanely about like fantastical problems. So the heist would be like, maybe it's like the first bit of matcha leaves that sprout, like sneaking in to get like the first freshest leaves before everyone else, because those are so expensive. If you want like first harvest matcha.
Yeah, but it went so horribly. Or like maybe like they I have an idea for this, where they went to go harvest early. There was some plot to like poison the crop, and so they went really early. They got it before the poison was applied. Everyone else died because they got it after whoever snuck in like applied the poison. That's how like a mundane thing like a harvest could lead to a massacre of everyone but the person who got there early. And they're a map maker, so maybe they were just the first person to find out about an area where this herb or matcha or whatever it was grew. So that's how they got there early, is they knew where it was going to be, or they figured it out from the maps. So that'd be an interesting one. Let's count. So I'm going to vote for harvest too. So it's 2 votes for harvest. Moroki, what's your vote here? And we'll pile them with the chat as well.
I was gonna say the chat had some interesting thoughts around the birth, because they think it's a callback to the child being killed.
Yeah.
And it's actually not a bad tie-in either. So it's a conundrum.
Yeah.
Maybe the birth and the harvest are unfortunately the same thing.
Oh,
it's true. Like we might not need to like use both cards, but we could still tack on that information, right?
There's nothing in the system for this, but it'll be a reminder for me. I'm going to tuck both. Birth and
It'll
harvest.
be a reminder that we can break all the rules and use Lore Master's deck the way we want it to.
I have not finished writing the guidebook yet, but there's 2 rules in the story engine deck, and they're not rules, they're guidelines. But they are: number 1, don't leave without making something. Just make anything. Doesn't have to be written down, it can be in your head, but make something. And then 2 is change any rule or guideline that doesn't work for you and isn't serving how you create. So I'm doing it. I'm following the rules by breaking the rules, and we've got a weird birth harvest that I'm going to make something up for. and I'm excited to find out what that is because I don't know yet.
And Raven, Adam wants to say your mic is amazing, amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks. I think it's like the HyperX. Yes, I love it because I have ADHD, and I will forget when I'm muted or not. So it's easier for me to use this. I can see that I'm muted or not
Nice.
muted.
That makes a lot of sense. As a fellow ADHDer, I have a number of times muted myself with my little kill switch and then forgotten I was doing that and then started talking. So I very much relate.
I mean, it's beautiful and functional, but mostly it's very beautiful.
It is, yeah.
I do love an aesthetic life.
The all of us on the Trash Heroes live stream are webcomic artists, and Raven is a performer and streamer and has put a lot of thought into like how to present a game. But the first time that that Raven joined, I just remember being like, "Oh shit, we all look like schlubs," and Raven has came correct, like was ready to go, and it very made me try to step up my game for the live stream.
Well, you both in real life and your character are curmudgeonly old men, even no matter what age you were throughout your life. I'm pretty sure you were always, as a toddler, just a curmudgeonly old man.
Yeah.
So like
in a great many ways.
I'm actually a little disappointed that in like artifying your setup that you're not having your camera be here looking up at your face.
Yeah. And my fingers constantly blocking it because I'm trying to find the button.
Yeah.
All right, final one here for our map maker. They have a background where they're responsible for this will be a chat vote, but we can all vote by giving our pitch here. A background where they're responsible for destroying a location, an agenda where they want to repair the fallout of an event, a trait where they have a startling appearance, or a trait where they are quick to anger. So you can vote on destroying location, repair fallout, appearance, or anger. What do we feel in Maroki and Raven?
Oh, responsible for destroying a location. I think that'd be like a core fault that they would carry with them through their lives as a map maker, being like, "Oh, I fucked up that part."
Having changed the map in some way. Yeah, for sure.
I think Kaito is seconding that destroying of location.
Nice. I'll vote for that too. And then Thomas.
Oh, and so does Thomas. So
yeah. All right.
And Adam.
I think we've got it. Nice. Okay. Responsible, and then the location that they responsible.
Oh, and then Kaito is saying and modifying the map as a result.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think modifying the map and also possibly it being caused by a map, right? Something incorrectly labeled that led to like a military decision that went wrong. Like, there's so many ways that like location of map maker just there's so many ways you can make connections there.
I remember like the stories. I think it was Eric who actually told me about it. Was saying when they first brought like early European settlers into North America, they just assigned like they kind of drew a grid over just like a map and just assigned people. It was like, you will now have this land as property, you now have this as property, but that could have literally been like a little tiny crappy rock island in the middle of like a giant lake, or you might not even have really land at all. You might actually be like mostly water with this corner of land, and that's like the result of extremely poor map making and assignment.
Wait, you mean that the colonizers, their approach for just taking over an entire country was not thought out or particularly humane?
It screwed over everybody. It screwed over everybody.
Oh my god.
Screwed over First Nation people. Screwed over the settlers.
We could bring in as well some references to the movie Burlesque, and have people dealing in airspace.
Oh, okay. Tell me a little bit about the concept. I don't know.
Oh, in Burlesque, there's like one of the things that saves the Burlesque bar cabaret location is the fact that they were going to be bought out by developers, and then they went to the people that were owning the adjacent building that was in sale and like was all condos, and said, hey, do you want to buy our airspace, which is the space above the building, so that nothing can be developed there, so that everyone in your building gets a view.
I actually remember this. I remember this. Yeah. Yeah, because you can do that. You can basically block development, but because you say like I don't want anyone to destroy my view on a less positive on a that's like the kind of like positive outcome when you say you want to buy someone's airspace. I know the less positive outcome is watching things like I don't know, Selling Sunset.
Oh, imagine
watch,
delegating land space to people and then having like floating islands occupy all of the space above it in ways that can be detrimental to like crops or just living and not getting full sunlight access.
Yeah, actually,
or air pollution if there's like generators or something that keep if it's done mechanically as opposed to a natural phenomenon.
all of this is actually good lore
trash.
from the Emberwind RPG. It's actually very
trash. Oh yeah.
This is all very descriptive of the Emberwind RPG setting, and the city of Adriel is very much a city where physically who's on top in this floating city in the sky and who has access to sunlight is like altitude, class, and social class and income are all super duper related, and like that's the story of Adriel, especially in the campaign Skies of Axia, is very much a story about who has and who doesn't have, and who you side with, and who holds power. Really fun story. And Eric, our community manager, who's running the comments on YouTube. He and I wrote that together with Derek Chung over at Nominal Games. It was a really fun and thoughtful campaign to write. So very cool. Okay, so let's figure out what the location that the map maker destroyed was. Was it a tower, a shipyard, a summit, or a waterfall? Maroki, where's your vote going?
I'm trying to look closer just because now our squares are smaller.
Yeah.
And I'm quite myopic. Summit, shipyard, waterfall, tower. I'm trying to think of is the location innocuous or is it big and can lead to bigger things?
If it were in relation to like the heist and harvest, waterfall could mean a huge change for anyone in that surrounding area dealing with the change of water access or the water flow.
And the people are voting that way too.
Yeah, and shipyard could mean a huge impact on trade, right?
Yeah,
trade or safety, military strength or not.
Yeah. Well, we got the chat agrees with you on waterfall. We got a lot of votes for waterfall, so let's do waterfall. And let's, as our final prompt here, I'm going to pull waterfall out and put it up here. We're going to connect it by using our little breadcrumb tokens, so that we know that this leads here. And it's one of the ways where if physically just the space that you're operating in becomes limited, you can still relocate things by just doing your little trace here.
And Peter, at the cost of my own well-being, but I do not want to deny what we have promised the people. I've seen a couple of reminders trickle in saying that you need to deliver the puns. And you know what? If Maroki's gonna cringe at a bunch of puns, the least I could say is the reason why I asked Peter to make some puns was for a poll for our community forum on our backer kit campaign. So if you guys love the deck and enjoy the campaign, please take a moment to share Lore Masters deck with your friends, family, nepotistic partners, your conniving, corrupt individuals, and your enemies. To anyone who's a part of your lore web,
share it with your anti-authoritarian priests. Share it with your corrupt map makers. Spread it across the web.
Do. We welcome everyone into our community, and we would love for people to kind of have the opportunity to craft more lore with us or craft their own lore and unlock their creative potential. So please share. You can always share our lives. You can share. There's a share button on the front page of BackerKit. Of course, you can always share the link directly. We're on all the social things. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. No, are we on Twitch? Well, we have a username.
We have a Twitch, but we're not using it. But we might start using it if people prefer to participate on Twitch. We are just
Discord. TikToks. Well, it's sort of like Peter's adjacent TikToks, but like the story engine hooks onto it because we're like, aha, our creator has a TikTok, so we shall barnacle ourselves onto that TikTok. Please do share the good word and bring them to campaign and bring Lore Masters deck and all its additional components to life, like those tokens you see
Yeah,
there.
I really want the token stretch goal so bad. I want it so bad.
I was gonna say I was expecting baguettes though.
I don't.
Wait, I want to know why. Is there a reason
Yeah.
why, Raven? Is there some?
Oh, if you're gonna be
backstory?
Oh, the
putting
trail of
breadcrumbs out.
Trail of
Oh,
breadcrumbs.
okay.
Yeah. All right. It was right there. It was right there, and I should have seen it. Speaking of wordplay, okay. So the three prompts, the 3 puns that I sent Maroki that did make it into the poll were: how do you earn your degree to practice lore? You have to pass the Bard exam.
Oh.
That got the votes for the stinkiest pun, I believe, in the poll.
I'm
how did the
looking for
lore
the results
master
right now.
feel?
Yes.
Yeah. How did the lore master feel when they lost all their notes? Forlorn.
Oh no.
All right. One more from the main thing, and then I'll read the 3 that got cut. What's a world builder's favorite shampoo? L'Oreal.
Oh my god.
Okay. What do you call it when you fold one piece of world building into another? Lorigami.
Oh my goodness.
What's a world builder's favorite cookie? L'Oreos. And then
Why was I thinking fig Newtons? I was like, there's no pun there.
Well, so the in the spreadsheet where I write all the cues that we like data merge into InDesign, fig in square brackets is the placeholder that we do a search and replace for to put in the figure icon to create a figure prompt. So fig is actually, there's like literally hundreds of figs across across the spreadsheet. So there is a weird little connection.
Nice.
And then this is the last one. This one was cut not just because it was terrible, but also because it was inappropriate. But what do you call it when a world builder reaches completion? A lorgasm.
Oh
my god.
And to be fair,
I noticed we've lost 3 viewers since I started reading these.
See, I'm not the only one where these puns can hammer in too hard.
You've given the CEO of the Story Engine the metrics to prove that I shouldn't be allowed to make jokes.
And then a report, losing viewers, too much pun. The pun too cringe.
All right, well, friends, Raven and I have to go. We are live in 20 minutes, and we need to go in the green room and prepare. So we're going to wrap this up with our final prompt here of the location of the waterfall. We'll get some details, and then we'll thank y'all for participating, and then we will duck away. But let's do our last round of prompts here. So first, we're going to do the wild card. So again, we'll all vote. Chat can vote, and you can give your commentary. Is it a lustrous waterfall, a polished waterfall, a tumultuous waterfall, a whistling waterfall, a conservative waterfall, an authoritarian waterfall, a futuristic waterfall, or a combustible waterfall? My first thought is I like polished. I like the idea that the activity of the water like leads to this like really sleek rock or this like polished rock, kind of like how rock tumblers work. If the waterfall itself is like kind of a rock tumbler, I think that could be kind of cool. But these are all fun. You guys, what thoughts?
I like futuristic.
I like futuristic, especially any natural location. What does it mean for like it to be in the future, for it to be like ahead of its time? Is a really interesting question.
Okay, I'll keep you guys on time. We gotta make a decision. 5,
Okay.
4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, I will vote for polished. Raven?
Futuristic.
All right, and then we've got in the chat whistling, combustible, whistling. So whistling takes it. Whistling waterfall. I really like sound cues. One thing I try to do as a DM is to always remember to pull in at least one sense other than sight. So describe either a smell or a sound or a feeling. Harder to do a taste usually, just off the top.
Whistling was the cue that prompted me into starting writing my book. Actually.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna go do one little diversion before we get back in here. Tell us about the book.
It's a young adult supernatural story that involves like the natural whistling sounds that can come from the rock formations adjacent to bodies of water.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah,
I love
and
it.
it's all about like decolonization, both on like when it comes from living off reserve or on reserve. If you didn't know, I'm very indigenous. I'm from the Northwest Coast. So yeah, I really want to make stories that are kind of about that I would have wanted, what I would have needed, and what people need now that are like me.
Amazing. And where is the book out yet, or it's coming, or what can you tell
Oh
us
God,
about where to
no,
find
God, no, it's barely written.
it? Amazing. Well, then we will look forward to it. But yeah, then in that case, I would say follow Raven at 2 Spirit Trickster on most platforms, so you can see how the book comes together. So let's go ahead and finish up our waterfall here. Does it have a background where it was created to memorialize an event? Does it have a trait where art or statuary celebrating a profession or role? So there's some kind of statue, it's like an ode to a job or a social role. Here we'll draw a figure card, but rather than it being a specific person, Marty!
Oh
Goo
my
goo!
God, the sweetie.
Love it. Yeah, so
I
art
had to
statuary-
grab him because he's playing guard dog. There's some folks over to work on my family's exhaust fan, and I was playing guard, and I was like, okay, I gotta go make sure that he's a good boy. He's guarding the house. It's all okay. No need to bark.
Thank you
He's
for
on
your
duty.
Marty.
Yeah, he's
Ally,
on
so I
duty.
figured everyone can get a chance to at least look at Goo Goo.
Yeah.
Marty, aka Goo Goo.
A trait where the waterfall is full of food smells. Someone heated up fish in the microwave there. And then a trait where there's strange wind or precipitation patterns.
Oh, I think that's probably got to be it.
Yeah.
Though I really like the art or statuary, of course. The sculptor, I wanna go for that one.
Yeah.
But the strange wind, I think, is perfect.
Okay. So you're voting for strange wind. We have a vote for statuary. We have one for statuary, one for strange wind. Precipitation patterns, that's 2. We'll give it to the precipitation patterns. Amazing. And then we're going to do 2 more of these. Okay. This location, does it have a background where it was damaged or ruined by a faction? We already know that it was destroyed by the map maker, so that one might be a little bit of a hat on a hat if we choose it. Trait, fords or canals. A trait where there's unique defensive features. Oh, a waterfall stronghold. I'm just pitching ideas here.
Oh yeah.
And then a trait where it's the habitat of a flying creature. I also am always a sucker for the creature prompts. I will almost always do creature prompts.
I'm gonna push towards that corner sitch with the stronghold and unique creature.
Yeah. I would love that. Let's see what the chat does. I have to. In most cases, I have to honor the chat, but I like that. I like the pitch for the corner prompt. I'm a corner prompt fan. The good old corner tech. All right, so let's get our votes for damaged, fords, or canals is easier to spell, so let's do canals. Defensive or creature.
I'm also pitching that it's a sea slug or snail because they're just the best.
Yeah. I have we have a creature deck that we'll pull from for the prompt, but there are mollusks in it.
Yes.
Yeah. So we definitely we have a chance for that. Amazing. Okay, so we've got a vote for a habitat and a vote for defensive features. So let's do and protection. So that's enough to do the corner tuck in my eyes. And awesome. So oops, I tucked it the wrong way. Defensive features. Okay. Great. So then we've got the defense features, and then we're not going to explore what the creature does. I'll do that off camera later because of time constraints, but we will pull a creature card. So the flying creature, what I love about this is that non-flying creatures are on these cards. So we will apply the flying trait to something that maybe should not be able to fly, and it'll be great. Is this going to be a flying fish, a flying antelope, a flying cactus, which I'm very curious about, or a flying eagle, which feels a little obvious to me. No shade for anyone who votes for eagle, but feels a little obvious. What are we thinking?
I'm thinking it's got to be fish or cactus.
Yeah, I'm also thinking fish or cactus. Fish would be fun because flying fish exist, but we can do a lot more, especially if they are flying fish on like a very vertical space. The way that they interact with the water is really interesting as water creatures and air creatures. And then just flying cactus, I just have so many questions, and I'm looking forward to the task of trying to figure out exactly
Well,
why.
For fish, I'm thinking like jellyfish works perfectly, especially if you're talking about like water and airflow and like I'm thinking about like the mist and air that rises up.
Yeah,
you know.
Marty votes yes for that as well.
Yeah.
Marty is goo for jellyfish. Awesome. Okay, well, let's tally the votes then. We have got fish, cactus, fish, although a flying antelope. Okay, we're going to go with fish. Habitat of a flying creature, habitat of a fish. Okay, amazing. To do a little recap, so on this new branch of our lore web, which is now, it now has 10 nodes. 10 nodes in this lore web. So we had 6 on the other page that we moved, and then 4 here. But we added a priest who's working to expose corruption within a faction. They have a phobia of the undead dragonflies from our previous prompt set. They're empathic or telepathic, and they're anti-authoritarian. They're trying to take down this opportunistic charity, this charity that has maintained a positive reputation by, I think, constantly jumping on beneficial relationships. That it caused a notable death, the death of a child that was very public, but it's not known or not very public that they were involved or it caused it in some way. And they ousted their former leader, who was a nepotistic map maker who used their power in making maps for the good of them and their close connections. They have a background where they were responsible for destroying the Whistling Waterfall. They have a background where they were the sole survivor of a birth or a harvest or some kind of combination of those two things. And they have an agenda where they want to heist an object, a sheath, which I'm now thinking is probably held and kept by the charity because they need to get it back. Like, it's kind of like they were told to clean out their desk and they didn't have a chance to steal stuff from the break room. And this is their steal stuff from the break room moment. I'm going to just do a little breadcrumb trail here. So that's that. And then the Whistling Waterfall, which has been destroyed or in some way significantly damaged, I guess, by what the map maker did, is known for strange wind or precipitation patterns. Could have changed because of the map maker even. It has unique defensive features, which would be really interesting because if it was destroyed, then why did those fail? Or were they added after to prevent further events from happening this way? And it's the habitat of a flying fish or jellyfish. I like the jellyfish pitch a lot. Jellyfish are very cinematic. There's a lot that I could do with that. So that's going to be our setting. So again, we are going to be playing on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Maroki is going to be playing her first game of Dungeons and Dragons. We successfully peer pressured her into it. My wife, Jasmine, who never comes on camera, never comes on live stream, is very private, has said that she would play, and I'm just really excited for that and to get to share how I think she's just so funny, very good improviser, very good at D&D, and I'm excited to share, to introduce her to all of you. Also, she's had such a huge impact on the way the story engine was developed. She's given me lots of feedback on the design and the function. It is very much my, like, when I'm lost and in the weeds, just a person I can often go to get that advice and sort me out, and I'm really appreciative of that. I'm excited to share her mind with you all. Alina Pete, the artist behind Were Geek, author of numerous stories, our fellow cast member on Trash Heroes, and then Jordan Shively, writer of tabletop RPGs. Marty's obviously a Jordan Shively fan. Jordan is at Hottest Singles on Twitter. Really, really talented microfiction writer, RPG writer. Very excited to have him on board. And we will be doing a little one-shot in this setting using all of these ingredients that you've given me as a Dungeon Master. I'm so excited for it. So yeah, that'll be at storyenginedeck.com/lore is the link where the live stream will go live on Wednesday. That's now up in the little banner there. We're excited to have you join us. And Raven, one more time, where can people find you online?
Ravenjohn.com or Two Spirit Trickster on most platforms.
Awesome. We'll put that back up on your little bio tag there. Wonderful. Maroki, do you have any parting words for us to send us off here?
I feel like whatever parting words I have already been co-opted by Marty, who's like, I have words and they are louder and more important than yours, and I'm going to say them. So in Marty's voice, he's basically saying, I am vanquishing all my enemies on your behalf, and if you want to vanquish enemies, pledge to Lore Master's deck so that you too can vanquish enemies. And please share the project with your friends. We really appreciate all your support. Super happy that all of you have tuned in and shared your ideas, and also thank you, Raven, for joining and sharing your ideas and shaking up our lore a little bit. I'm nervous and excited nervous and excited for Wednesday, and we'll see how it goes. And maybe Marty will end up making a guest appearance as, I don't know, an animal companion of mine, now that he's kind of shown his aptitude for vanquishing enemies.
And you already know that I'll agree not to kill pets because of Jasmine has made that request before. So yeah, you can make use of that. Thanks everyone. Thanks for all of your participation and the ideas you put in the chat. The setting really did feel like fun and collaborative, and I'm excited to try and honor that with the storytelling as I frantically scribble notes together this weekend. Thanks a lot. And if you'd like to join us in our session starting in 8 minutes, that's going to be at twitch.tv/weregeek, twitch.tv/weregeek. I'll also be tweeting the link out on my personal Twitter at rockpapercynic in a moment if you want to find the link to it there. Or again, if you've already followed Raven at TwoSpiritTrickster, then you can find the link there as well. So we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you so much. 7 minutes. All right, we got to go. Our DM's about to yell at us for being late. Bye, everybody. Bye.